Chapter 9:13. The spiritual energy ball couldn't withstand the explosion of spiritual energy and exploded in the arena. The ferocious spiritual energy transformed into a hurricane, sweeping outwards in all directions. The spectators had no choice but to use their chaotic spiritual energy to block the terrifying spiritual energy shockwaves. At this moment, everyone's attention was on the arena. Demon Spear Shwe Ci stabbed Nameless. No, to be precise, if Nameless had a left arm, this spear would have stabbed him. However, Nameless didn't have a left arm, so this spear only passed through his side. On the other hand, Jinghong's chest was badly mutilated. This is impossible. That guy actually won. I feel for the first time that not having an arm is more advantageous than having an arm. He turned his disadvantage into an advantage. My God, this is too crazy. Jinghong didn't have time to check his injuries. He looked at Liu Chan in shock. Impossible. How can your sword break my Overlord Spear battle body and Demon Blood Meridian opening? How can this attack of yours be so powerful? Who are you? Liu Chan said indifferently. Didn't I say that I'm from Wu Nian Academy? But I have to say, are all Sixth Heaven people so strong? You should be just an ordinary disciple, but your strength is already quite terrifying. Liu Chan said sincerely. It seems that guy told me to keep a low profile for a reason. Thinking back, when he had just reached the fifth heaven, he had already destroyed a small sect. Jinghong could still hold on for a while, but when he heard Liu Chen's words, he couldn't hold on anymore and spat out a mouthful of blood. Ordinary disciple? He was from Soaring Firmament Academy, which was ranked in the top 10. He was the strongest in his batch. Even in Xingyuan continent, he could definitely be ranked in the top 10. In the end, that guy defeated him with a sword, but he didn't feel happy at all. Instead, his face was full of worry. With his body and mind damaged, Jinghong couldn't hold on anymore. His body leaned to one side and fell down. On the side of Paladin Academy, a few disciples who came to learn on the spot almost dropped their jaws to the ground. Senior brother, that guy, is he really the aborigine on the deserted island? Why is he so strong? A girl's eyes widened in panic. How would I know? My God, luckily I was polite to him at that time. Otherwise, he wouldn't have killed us on the island. That's right. Master told us not to be too arrogant. It really makes sense. However, I don't understand why he would be trapped on the island with his strength. Naturally, they did not know that it was that damned mutated dragon species that trapped Liu Chan. If Xiao Chun traced the source of this, it was all thanks to the puppet master, who forced him to hastily merge the dragon crystal. Otherwise, nothing would have happened if he had just advanced to the sovereign stage. At this moment, everyone from the Lingxiao Sacred Institute was completely dumbfounded. If Hao Zhan had been defeated, it might have been because he had underestimated his opponent. However, even his senior apprentice brother Jinghong had been defeated in a single blow. This was no longer something that could be explained by underestimating his opponent. Demonic bloodline channel opening is a high-level enhancement technique passed down by the demonic clan. Together with the Overlord Spear combat body, soul body as one, and the Overlord Spear realm, based on the previous data of level 4, senior apprentice brother Shield should have healed at least 20 billion HP. How could he not be able to block a single blow from him? It's not just 20 billion. Have you forgotten how much defense the Overlord Spear adds? It can block at least 90% of the attack. Not far away, Wan Yao shook his head. Those Lingxiao disciples are still calculating the damage. Can't they see that the key to victory is not in the damage? Red Lotus nodded. The most terrifying thing about that guy is that he hasn't moved at all. That guy's sky-piercing sword is indeed powerful. However, the power of the Sixth Dao is not to be underestimated after being strengthened 6 times. If Nameless was hit, it wouldn't end well, Wan Yao said. However, an expert like Jinghong actually missed. It's impossible that Jinghong doesn't know that Nameless doesn't have a left arm. There's only one explanation as to why he missed. Nameless stabbed Jinghong first, causing Jinghong's spear to miss for a moment. Nameless used this opportunity to dodge demonic spear Shiwaran's attack. Red Lotus thought carefully and realized that her eldest senior apprentice brother's analysis was more unique. He was able to deduce what had happened in the blink of an eye from the ending. She squinted her eyes and stared at Nameless. It should be Wu Shi when he defeated Haojin. However, even if I have the ability, I wouldn't dare to bet everything on that moment. Wang Yao frowned and said faintly, "This guy is a madman." In fact, Lu Chun didn't want to do this either. Unfortunately, his body didn't allow him to. He didn't have the stamina to deal with these people and slowly find the best way to attack. The sky-piercing sword just now consumed a lot of energy. He didn't know if he could last until the end. However, at this time, the people from the Soaring Firmament Sacred Court just stood there and didn't take the time to continue the challenge. This made Lu Chun very anxious. Lu Chun frowned and impatiently shouted at the other side, "Can you guys hurry up? If no one comes, I'll do it myself." Hearing Lu Chun's words, the people from the Soaring Firmament Sacred Court couldn't help but take a step back. At this time, an old man walked out of the crowd. His rank couldn't be seen on his badge, but it was obvious that he was the same as the disciples of the Soaring Firmament Sacred Court. He seemed to be a teacher of the Soaring Firmament Sacred Court. After he got on the stage, he clasped his fists at Lu Chun. "Young friend, no, Nameless Dean, we forfeit this round." "Forfeit?" Lu Chun finally heard a piece of good news. "Yes, forfeit. Our Soaring Firmament Sacred Court has lost this round, and we will also lose the right to continue fighting for the old site of the Void Thought Sacred Court. Nameless Dean, please show mercy and let me take back Jing Hong." Lu Chun looked at Jing Hong in front of him. He was lying on the ground, and it was unknown whether he was alive or dead. The green bricks on the ground had been dyed red. Lu Chun roughly understood that they valued Jing Hong more and were afraid that he would kill him. Lu Chun frowned slightly and snorted. "What if I don't agree? Just now, this person said that he wanted to kill me. Do you think I will let him go so easily? And you people, do you really think that there's no one in the Void Thought Sacred Court? How dare you come to the Void Thought Sacred Court to fight for the territory? Don't you know my feelings for the Void Thought Sacred Court?" In a rage, Lu Chun directly stabbed Jing Hong's back. The group of people was stunned, and at the same time, they were so shocked that they broke out in cold sweat. Didn't this guy just become the dean of the Void Thought Sacred Court? Was it so easy to form feelings? Also, that guy was too ruthless. Jing Hong had already lost the ability to fight, and he actually added a stab. They didn't know if Jing Hong could survive. Could this guy be a disciple of the Void Thought Sacred Court? That's not right. A sea of clouds was the only one left in the Void Thought Sacred Court. Could it be that he has a deep relationship with the Void Thought Sacred Court in the past, and that's why he stepped forward at the critical moment? Is he really going to kill those people from the Ling Shao Sacred Court? It doesn't matter if they live or die in the arena. If he really wants to kill, even the dean of the Ling Shao Sacred Court can't do anything. The disciples of the Immortal Qin Academy looked at their instructor. "Master, that John Doe, is he going to start a massacre?" The master glanced at his disciple. He knew what this kid was thinking too well. Jing Hong had been defeated. They were afraid that they would be killed in the arena. Nameless is indeed a little scary. Let's wait and see. Let the other teams exhaust themselves. Maybe we will have a chance. At this moment, Nameless suddenly shouted angrily, "No one is allowed to give up on the arena. You must fight all 5 rounds." Chapter 9:14. The remaining 3 disciples of the Soaring Firmament Sacred Academy turned pale. This lunatic, not only did he not want them to give up, but he also wanted them to fight all 5 rounds. How crazy was this? Just as Lu Chun was approaching, Deacon Han suddenly walked onto the arena. He cupped his fists at Lu Chun and said, "Nameless Dean, according to the rules, if one side gives up, then there's no need for you to continue with the next round." The instructor of the Soaring Firmament Sacred Academy saw Deacon Han and hurriedly said, Yes, Deacon Han, Nameless Dean, we give up this round." "Nameless Dean, I think we should proceed with the next round as soon as possible. You don't have enough time to deal with the challenges of the 20 academies," Deacon Han said. Lu Chun thought for a moment and shook his head. "Since Deacon Han said so, then I'll let it go this time. Who's the next one?" Lu Chen's gaze swept across all the major academies. After sweeping a circle, none of the disciples of the major academies dared to meet his gaze. Finally, Lu Chen's gaze landed on the Paladin Academy. Deacon Han. Suddenly, an instructor of the Paladin Academy said, "Nameless Dean is too powerful. We also give up." Deacon Han nodded at him, indicating that he had received it. Deacon Han, our Immortal Chin Academy gives up." On the other side, someone called out several times to get Deacon Han's attention. "Deacon Han, our Void Academy is here to broaden our horizons. We have no intention of fighting for the old site of the Nameless Academy. Now it seems that the Nameless Dean is in a bad mood, so we won't cause any more trouble and withdraw from this round. Deacon Han, our Xianan Academy gives up." For a moment, the sounds of forfeiting rose and fell. In just a short moment, more than a dozen academies had given up. Wan Yao and Hong Lian turned to look at their master, their eyes full of questions. An elder behind them narrowed his eyes slightly. If the other academies gave up, then so be it. Even if they participated, they probably wouldn't be able to get it. However, Kanglin and Immortal Chen also gave up. This was a huge opportunity for the North Pole Academy, but the old man looked at the field again. The one-armed man stood calmly in the middle of the field. Beside him, the strange black and white twin swords were suspended. The swords were surrounded by black and white spirit energy. What level is that guy's strength? He was a little hesitant. Another instructor behind him narrowed his eyes. Elder Su, this person isn't simple. If I'm not wrong, Wuxia should be able to split and fuse his skills as he pleases. Not to mention fusing the skills together. Just to be able to do this, he must have an extremely high degree of control over his spiritual energy. Elder Su frowned. He had Wan Yao and Hong Lian as his subordinates. He was confident that he could defeat the Lingxiao Saint Court and take the old site of the Wunyan Saint Court. Elder Bai, Wuxia doesn't increase his skills. It's just the way he uses his skills. I think Jinghong's defeat was accidental. Wan Yao is good at movement techniques, and Hong Lian is good at long-range spells. They might be able to fight. Elder Su said. Elder Bai let out a long breath. But look at that Nameless. He's also ruthless and crazy. Haojin is seriously injured, and Jinghong is on the verge of death. Moreover, we challenged him after he issued a warning. I'm afraid he'll kill us if we challenge him now. Elder Su, I know you've wanted to set up a branch academy for a long time. However, the dean and I talked about the old site of the Wunyan Saint Court before. Many people know that there's something mysterious here. However, looking at the history of the Wunyan Saint Court for 300 years, it's not difficult to find that in the past 300 years, the Wunyan Saint Court has been declining year by year. Even if there's an extremely strong dean, he can't reverse the decline. A sea of clouds was originally not weak, but he could only watch the Wunyan Saint Court fall. I have the same idea as the dean. The things in the Wunyan Saint Court seem to be getting stronger and stronger in the past 300 years. Even if we seize this old site, I don't think we'll be able to control the mystery inside. When the time comes, we'll really suffer a double loss. Elder Su closed his eyes in pain. Elder Bai was his close friend. His words were very clear, and his analysis was also very thorough. He had the intention to set up a branch academy, but the 1,000-year foundation of the Wunyan Saint Court had been exhausted. Did he really have the strength to set up a branch academy here? His disciples, Wan Yao and Red Lotus, were rare talents. Their futures were limitless. If they fell when facing that madman, he would definitely regret it for the rest of his life. After thinking about it, Elder Su finally opened his eyes and let out a long sigh. Elder Bai is right. There are countless opportunities in Jiuqian, but we can't just take them for ourselves. Well, we don't have to choose such an evil place like the Wunyan Saint Court to set up a branch academy. Let's wait until the next fight for the old site. After thinking it through, Elder Su also said loudly, Deacon Han, the North Pole Academy will withdraw from this fight. Then, he looked at Nameless and snorted, Nameless, I think you're also here for the treasures of the Wunyan Saint Court. You're not qualified to compete, so you're trying to trick the Dean of the AC of Clouds? You're really scheming to compete with these juniors. However, let me give you a piece of advice. There are countless opportunities in the world. Those who aren't lucky won't be able to obtain them. I wonder if you have such luck. Wan Yao, Red Lotus, let's go. Lu Chun looked depressed. That old man thought he saw through everything. It was all nonsense. He was tricked by the people in the mountains. They introduced him to 2 academies. One of them was nowhere to be found, and the other had already closed down. Not long after, the last academy, Paladin Academy, also decided to withdraw. Paladin Academy had a few experts, but they were not as good as Jinghong. Originally, according to the normal process, they would have a chance to avoid Ling Xiao and North Pole in the first 2 rounds if they were lucky. Even if Nameless came out, they might still have a chance if the other academies took turns to fight. However, no one was willing to be cannon fodder. In the end, they had no choice but to withdraw. Things were a little unexpected. Lu Chun had been counting the number of teams that had withdrawn. There were exactly 20 of them. At this time, Deacon Han turned to Lu Chun and said, "Then congratulations to Nameless Dean for taking the old site of the Wu Yin Saint Court. At this point, Nameless Dean can establish an academy here. However, there are a few things to note. First, even if Nameless Dean took the old site of the Wu Yin Saint Court, the Wu Yin Saint Court has still been deregistered. The old site is determined to be under your name. This marks the end of the final disposal of the Wu Yin Saint Court's assets. The Wu Yin Saint Court is officially removed from the Zhongxin Go. Please remove the Dean's seal," Deacon Han said. Lu Chun took out the Dean's seal and found that the words on it had unknowingly disappeared. "Your Excellency needs to establish a new academy. After the establishment, the Dean's seal will also have a new name. Taking the old site of the Wu Yin Saint Court does not mean that you completely own the address. We have a minimum requirement for the newly established academy. Every month, there must be at least 50 disciples joining the new academy. We have set up array seals in all the areas of the Wu Yin Saint Court. Only when this requirement is met will it be open to the public." Lu Chen's eyes widened. Recruiting 50 disciples every month? What the hell? When recruiting disciples, you need to pay attention. The minimum fee must not be less than 1 million spirit stones. This is also to avoid bad competition. Of course, you can also raise the fee if you want. Deacon Han did not give Lu Chen a chance to ask questions. Second, the new academy has a certain amount of time to develop. However, after 2 years, it must begin to participate in various competitions in Xinyuan continent to gain points and calculate the academy's ranking. The grades of the academy are divided into lower academy, upper academy, holy academy, and immortal academy. Each grade has its own ranking. Nameless Dean can check the academy's panel. After 2 years, if your ranking continues to be in the bottom 10 of the same grade for 3 months, we will directly announce the closure of your academy and distribute the assets under your name. Lu Chun was already speechless. In other words, his position as dean was not something that could be casually taken. Damn it. Deacon Han, is it too late for me to give up now? What about that guy from earlier? Don't go. I'll give you the academy as long as you agree to let me in. Chapter 9:15. Lu Chun was the only one left in the huge Wenyan Academy. It was only now that Lu Chun truly felt like a commander without an army. Lu Chun hurriedly called out Little Green, Xiao Min, and Rhubarb. No matter how angry he was, at least he was not alone. Looking at the messy academy, Lu Chun let out a long sigh. There's not even a cleaner, not even a mentor. How the hell am I going to recruit disciples? If it was an academy like the Ling Xiao Academy, it would also be a famous academy. There would definitely be many who would come because of its reputation. Naturally, he would not have to worry about recruiting disciples. However, he did not even have a name for the academy. The sixth heaven was a golden area for cultivation. Everyone was racing against time to cultivate. Who would not want to come here to cultivate? The most important thing was that Lu Chun couldn't enter most of the areas in the academy. The experts of the Pavilion of Immortals had set up a ceiling formation. Lu Chun knocked on the formation until it was rumbling, but he still couldn't break it. He didn't know what kind of profound and complicated formation it was. Currently, only the martial arts arena and a few small houses in the teaching area were open. There was a small courtyard in the residential area. He could not enter other places at all. Thinking of his future situation, Lu Chun sat down on the steps of the martial arts arena. Thinking of his miserable experiences since coming to the sixth heaven, Lu Chun was burning with anger. Coming to the sixth heaven was the least prepared he had ever been. First, he was separated from the little critter and the others. Then, he almost died in the ominous demon sea. After fusing with the dragon crystal and the desolate heaven blood demon stone, he mutated into a useless person. Then, he was trapped on a deserted island and the academy closed down. Then, he mysteriously became the dean of the academy. He did not even have time to deal with his own affairs and still had to face the pressure of recruiting disciples. Lu Chun had never been so miserable. Puppet Master, I will settle this score with you in the future. Boss. Lu Yi looked at Lu Chen's helpless expression and felt her heart ache. She had never seen her boss so unlucky. She knew Boss's current situation very well. If they couldn't remove the restrictions in all areas, then they wouldn't be able to find out if the holy courtyard of Intentionless had what they were looking for. Boss was now in a dilemma. Boss, don't be discouraged. At least you still have us. Little Green suddenly said, Xiao Min, Rhubarb, let's clean up the teaching pavilion and the rooms in the dormitory first. If new disciples come, they won't feel dirty. Good. Boss, do your best. We know you can do it. Lu Chun looked up at the two ghosts in surprise. You? Xiao Min smiled and looked at Lu Chun. Boss, we all know that you've had a hard time during this period of time, but we also know that you won't give up so easily. After that, Xiao Min and the others went to get busy. Let's go, Rhubarb. Take a look around and see if there are any treasures. Lu Chen's heart skipped a beat. They still believed in him so much. Well, since I know that there is something unusual in the holy courtyard of Wunyan, why am I still hesitating here? I must find the treasure. Isn't it just enrollment? I don't believe that I can't beat the other academies. Lu Chen finally pulled himself together and opened the academy's panel. The first thing was to give the academy a name. Other people's names seemed to be domineering, like sacred martial soaring cloud. My academy will be called. Lu Chun narrowed his eyes slightly and then entered the name of the academy. Demonic Academy. Lu Chen's abilities were inextricably linked to the demon god set, so he used this name as the academy's name. On his token, the ink was rearranged to form a new font, Demonic Academy Dean's Token. Perhaps Lu Chun didn't know now, but many years later, what kind of terrifying majesty these 7 words would represent. The 9 teaching areas are currently all blocked, and there are only a few public teaching pavilions. Lu Chun looked at the academy map in the panel. Then let's use this place first. Under the name of the Demonic Academy, there was only one dean, and behind the dean's name was his basic information. Demonic Academy, Lower House, Dean, Solipsistic, Dean Strength, 1-star Field Great Cultivator, Cultivation Level ranking below 1 billion Reputation, Silent and Nameless, Current Reputation Authority, able to participate in the activity 4 Seasons Parade. After the Winter Parade begins 1 month later. After signing up for the activity, you can bring an academy instructor to the newcomer area to recruit new people. Number of disciples under name. 1. Not in the 6th heaven. Not included in the academy's population. Lu Chun frowned slightly and said strangely, Why am I still a field great cultivator? Because you are the founder. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from behind Lu Chun. Lu Chun turned his head and saw an old man walking towards him with a wine jug in his hand. Old Dean? Lu Chun looked at this person in surprise. A sea of clouds smiled slightly. There was a hint of loneliness in his smile, but he seemed relieved. You don't have to call me Old Dean. Now you're the dean of the new academy, and it has nothing to do with the Wunyan Academy. The reason why you're still a field great cultivator is very simple. It is because you are the founder of this new academy. A sea of clouds walked to Lu Chun and sat beside him. Just like when we talk about the founders of other academies, Senior Ling Xiao of the Ling Xiao Academy founded the Ling Xiao Academy. We will say that Senior Ling Xiao was once a disciple of Immortal Xing Yun and was a disciple of the Purple Garden Immortal Academy, but you won't say that he is a disciple of the Ling Xiao Academy, will you? Lu Chun thought about it carefully. It seemed to make sense. So, you didn't belong to any sect before, and you didn't have a master. Even if you are the dean, you are still a wild man. I am not a wild man. I am a field great cultivator. Lu Chun corrected him. A sea of clouds laughed. It's up to you. Anyway, in the eyes of others, you are no different from a wild man. Lu Chun had nothing to refute this time. When others saw his badge, their expressions were indeed similar to that of a wild man. The sixth layer of heaven was a little better. Maybe the people here were more knowledgeable. By the way, Senior A Sea of Clouds, you came at the right time. Why don't I give you the position of dean? I don't plan to be a dean at all. Give it to me. A Sea of Clouds looked at Lu Chun with a hesitant expression. Finally, he took another sip of wine. Nameless, you will definitely be the dean. The Wu Yin Academy is gone. The academy now is not my academy, but yours. With your strength, you don't even need to think about it. You must be a powerful figure in the first few layers of heaven. Even the wind wolf came. Then, what are you afraid of in the sixth layer of heaven? A Sea of Clouds suddenly looked serious. Lu Chun shook his head. I'm not afraid. I still have a lot of things to do. In fact, I have no clue about my own affairs now. I have a very important war. Friends who are separated. I have to find them as soon as possible. Then you should make your academy bigger and stronger. A Sea of Clouds said affirmatively. Do you know how difficult it is to find someone in the sixth layer of heaven? Do you know how big the sixth layer of heaven is? This question, Lu Chun not only did not know, but he also wanted to know very much. The sixth layer of heaven. How many continents are there? Lu Chun asked. Countless. A Sea of Clouds said. Countless. Lu Chun's eyes widened. Yes. A Sea of Clouds looked up at the evening sky. Some bright stars were clearly visible. Can you count the stars in the sky? Solipsistic. My dream was to take the Wu Yin Academy out of prosperous origin planet and compete with the academies of other planets. Lu Chun almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Other planets? The sixth layer of heaven had more than one planet. Chapter 9:16. Lu Chun never dreamed that the sixth layer of heaven was so terrifying. With countless planets, compared to this, the fifth layer of heaven was just child's play. Looking for little beast god and the rest on countless planets was like looking for a needle in a haystack. A Sea of Clouds continued. No matter how great your reputation is outside of prosperous origin planet, no one will recognize you. However, the academy is different. If you can become an immortal academy, even people from other continents will come. Moreover, the academy's disciples will spread your name and the academy's name throughout the sixth layer of heaven. Lu Chun's eyelids twitched. It's over. Now, not only do I have to be a good dean, but I also have to make the demonic academy bigger and stronger. Fortunately, when naming the academy, he didn't let himself go too far. He chose something like Ren A Feng or Quang Lang. If little beast god and the rest heard about the demonic academy, they might think of him. Is it because you don't have anyone under you, so you don't know where to start? A Sea of Clouds looked at Lu Chun with a smile that wasn't a smile. Lu Chun nodded. Then, if the dean doesn't mind, this old man would like to apply for a position as a teacher in the new academy. Are you willing to accept me? Lu Chun widened his eyes. Senior A Sea of Clouds, you want to apply for a position as a teacher? A Sea of Clouds smiled. After all, this used to be the Void Academy. If I can spend my life here, it can be considered as fulfilling my wish. As for the salary, you don't have to give it to me in the early stages. The new academy doesn't have a ranking, so I can't get the rewards and various resources. However, as a new academy, they still have subsidies. You can look at the academy's panel. There is a detailed explanation. Lu Chun hurriedly opened the panel. In the last 2 rows of the academy, there were really subsidies for the establishment of the new academy. Rewards, 500,000 per month. Immortal level pills, 200 three-dimensional attribute pills per month. 100 immortal level pills per month. 300 other immortal level pills per month, optional, and a corresponding number of immortal level pills will be issued. The grade of the pills issued will be random. You can also receive a corresponding number of medicinal ingredients to refine the pills yourself. The medicinal ingredients collection ratio is based on 20% success rate. The above subsidies can be received unconditionally for the first time. For the second time, the new academy needs to meet the enrollment requirements for the month to apply. Subsidy lasts for 24 months. Lu Chun was stunned. 500,000 cash withdrawal rolls. The strongest thought in his mind right now was to take the first month's worth of cash withdrawal rolls and immortal pills and run away. A Sea of Clouds did not know what Lu Chun was thinking and continued. There aren't many resources in the early stages. There are 50 disciples a month, and each person will only receive 10,000 yuan in cash. However, the students have just been established, so Zhongxingge can't give out too many resources. Wasn't this a lot? Lu Chun had never seen a 500,000 cash withdrawal note in his life. However, when he thought about it carefully, the levels of the students were all very high now. Earth elementalists could only unload goods and do odd jobs. If they were in Theo the Great, even 500,000 yuan would not be enough for them to rise by 1 star. What's more, there were so many people in the academy. After the distribution, the number of cash withdrawal scrolls that the disciples received was pitifully small. In the future, if you want to get cash withdrawal rolls, you won't be able to buy them on the market. You'll have to participate in the academy's competition and get a ranking. Or you'll have to bring your disciples to kill monsters, start a profitable business, and so on. Oh, it'll be better in 2 years. With the academy's ranking, Zhongxingge will give out a lot more cash withdrawal rolls. A Sea of Clouds was the old dean after all. He knew the ins and outs of this very well. After thinking about it, Lu Chun decided not to take the money and run away. 500,000 yuan might seem like a lot now, but in the future, it would not be enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Besides, he still had to investigate the mysterious changes in the old site of the Academy of Intentionless and find the little beast god, Senior A Sea of Clouds. Do you really want to apply to be a teacher? Of course. When have I ever gone back on my words? A Sea of Clouds laughed. Actually, teaching disciples is not difficult. They spend most of their time cultivating by themselves. You just have to guide them well. The reason we're delaying now is to find disciples with potential. A disciple with potential can even support half of the academy. When Jinghong was seriously injured, didn't the people of Soaring Clouds voluntarily forfeit? It's also because of this reason. Lu Chun frowned. Now we can't even find disciples. Where can we find disciples with potential? They should also join the academy. The Academy of Intentionless Academy won't be interested in the lower academy, right? I do have a few candidates. When the Academy of Intentionless closed down, they refused to leave. I was the one who chased them away. A Sea of Clouds shook his head and said, it seemed that he was still brooding over this matter. Really? That's great. Lu Chun was pleasantly surprised. How many people are there? There aren't many people. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. How many are really willing to stay? About a dozen. In addition, some may join other academies and may not follow. I estimate that it's not bad if 5 people are willing to come and take a look. A Sea of Clouds said helplessly, are these the former elites of the Academy of Intentionless? Yes, they're all young people with potential. There are 1 or 2 older ones whose strength is above Jinghong. It's just that they have cultivated longer than Jinghong. Lu Chun wouldn't be picky now. It was good enough that he could recruit the first batch of students. Senior A Sea of Clouds. Then you can contact them and see if they're willing to come over. A Sea of Clouds nodded. I have already sent a message to them. Only 3 people replied to me. As for the others, it's up to fate. Oh, you don't need to call me senior in the future. Just call me a Sea of Clouds. You are the dean, and I am your mentor. As for the other places, although the Academy of Intentionless was ruined in my hands, in fact, some people know the reason. It's not entirely because of my poor management. There is something in the academy that destroys the spiritual source, causing the students to progress slowly. Sigh. In short, my reputation is not so bad that it can't be used. I can at least recruit a few people. Tomorrow, let's take a look at the former disciples of the Academy of Intentionless. Then I will go to the recruitment office at the foot of the mountain to see if I can recruit new people. Lu Chun was a little depressed before. It wasn't that he had no confidence at all. It was mainly because he had no experience at all and didn't know where to start. But now that a sea of clouds had joined the demonic academy, the situation was suddenly different. They could recruit elite disciples as soon as they opened, which made Lu Chen's confidence return instantly. Senior A Sea of Clouds, I'm actually not used to calling you that. Then I'll call you Old C. I'll go with you tomorrow. Okay. The news of you taking over the Academy of Intentionless has been released. Maybe some people will come because of your reputation. Then how much is our recruitment fee? 1 million? Lu Chen thought for a moment. He remembered that the unloader paid 5 million spirit stones to enter some academy. The demonic academy was now a lower academy, so the price should be much lower. 10 million spirit stones. Lu Chen thought carefully and suddenly jumped out a number. 10 million. John Doe, did you make a mistake? The Academy of Intentionless charges 10 million. Weren't you worried that you wouldn't be able to recruit people? This price will scare a lot of people away. Lu Chen's eyes were like torches, and he nodded affirmatively. Old C, my price is already considered low. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to recruit people, but I never thought that my demonic academy would be a grade lower than others. On the contrary, since I'm the dean, the demonic academy must be higher than others. Chapter 9:17. That night, a sea of clouds also stayed to help Lu Yi and the others clean up the teaching pavilion and the dormitory area. Lu Chen received the first subsidy. When choosing the elixir, Lu Chen was a little hesitant. Logically speaking, giving the herbs to Little Green would definitely give him the highest profit, but Little Green didn't have all the elixir formulas. If he wanted to get the herbs, he needed to get the formulas first. In the sixth heaven, these elixir formulas shouldn't be particularly difficult to get, but he was afraid that it would take time. When the disciples came in, it would be troublesome if they didn't have the elixir to assist their cultivation. So Lu Chen chose to take 300 cultivation pills for the first month, and chose the herbs for the three-dimensional attribute elixir and the immortal elixir, and let Little Green refine them in the future. Early the next morning, Lu Chen went to the mountain gate to change the plaque, renaming the Wunyan Academy to the Demonic Academy. Unfortunately, there was still a lower academy in the lower right corner of the Demonic Academy's name, which made Lu Chen a little unhappy. Must it be written on the plaque? Lu Chen stood in front of the plaque and shook his head. Just these two words stopped many students at once. Demonic Academy? A girl's voice came from behind him. Lu Chen looked back and saw 3 immortal cultivators standing in front of the mountain gate, also looking at the new plaque. These 3 people were 2 men and 1 woman. 2 men. One of them was burly, nearly 2 meters tall, had a beard, and wore sleeveless leather armor. In comparison, the other person was skinny, about 1.8 meters tall, and wore a gray robe. The only woman was the one with the best looks, but she wasn't a stunning beauty. In the Jiuqian, where fairies ran around the streets, she wasn't too outstanding. Sure enough, it was taken away. The female disciple shook her head, her eyes full of melancholy. I thought it would be taken away by Ling Xiao or the North Pole Academy to be their branch. Senior sister by E, since the Wunyan Holy Courtyard is gone. Why did the dean let us come here? The bearded man said, Sai, I don't know. Maybe something from the Holy Courtyard of Wunyan was left here. In short, the dean has orders, and we will obey. Speaking of which, second senior brother, little junior brother, I didn't think that you guys still haven't joined the other academies. The tall and thin man had a disdainful look on his face. A teacher for a day is a father for life. Even if I, Gray Crow, leave the Wunyan Academy, I will never forget my teacher's kindness. How can I change my sect so casually? That's right. I, the Black Armor King, only have one master. Since my master has left, I will only recognize the Saint Courtyard of Wunyan. Lu Chen, who was at the side, heard everything clearly. These 3 should be the new disciples that Old Hai had recruited. Speaking of which, the bearded man was actually the junior brother. He looked a little rushed. However, they didn't seem to know what Old Hai wanted them to do. Hey, are you a disciple of this lousy school? Gray Crow asked in a bad mood. He didn't want to be polite to someone who had robbed Wu Yin Academy. Lu Chen frowned slightly. You were introduced by Ol Hai. Ol Hai? You mean Uncle A Sea of Clouds? You're just a gatekeeper disciple. How dare you call him that? The bearded man's face was fierce. Lu Chen didn't argue with them. Come with me. Old Hai is waiting for you guys up there. The three of them looked at each other. This guy still didn't change his words, and he gave people a feeling of arrogance. Not long after, Lu Chen brought the three of them to an instruction pavilion. Now, even the reception hall was not open. At present, they could only use the instruction pavilion to receive guests. A sea of clouds was meticulously cleaning the room. After the three disciples saw it, they hurried over. Uncle, why are you doing this kind of rough work? Did they make things difficult for you? This is too much. Uncle, you are the dean of the Sacred Academy. How could you be forced into such a situation? Even if we break the sky today, we three brothers will help you get justice. Hey, boy, we're the disciples of your demonic academy. Ask them to come out. If there is one, I will beat one. If there are 100, I will beat 100. Lu Chen stood aside with an awkward expression. Speaking of disciples, the demonic academy really didn't have any. If they wanted a challenge, there was only one mentor and one dean. A sea of clouds laughed and pulled the three of them. Why are you fighting and killing as soon as you come up? What did I say? I was bullied. I'm volunteering to clean this place. Voluntarily? The three of them were surprised. Come. Sit down first. Xiaomin, please pour us a cup of tea. Xiaomin came out with a rag from the inner room. Looking at the situation, she hurriedly put down the rag to boil water and make tea. The situation is a bit complicated. Listen to me slowly. Dean, come and sit down too. Next, a sea of clouds repeated the whole process to the three of them in detail. The three of them frowned as they listened. This. Bai looked at Lu Chen, who was leisurely drinking tea, in shock. Wait a minute, let me think about it again. Marshal Uncle passed the dean to you. And then you, as the dean of the Wu Yin Academy, snatched the old site of the Wu Yin Academy from the hands of Ling Xiao and the North Pole and the 20 other academies? Lu Chen took a sip of tea. Something like that. But at that time, I only fought Ling Xiao Academy. After seriously injuring 2 people, the others all forfeited. You seriously injured Jinghong and their strongest newcomer, Haojin. Gray Crow's eyes widened. I have been in the 6th heaven for almost 20 years. I can't guarantee that I can fight these 2 people consecutively. Although Wu Yin Academy has been removed, you were once the dean of Wu Yin Academy. If that's the case, it's equivalent to Wu Yin Academy being reopened in another form. Black Armor King muttered to himself. Yes, when I heard that the old site of Wu Yin Academy was going to be publicly contested, I thought that Wu Yin Academy would become a laughingstock for a long time. But this way, Brother Nameless has preserved the reputation of Wu Yin Academy to the greatest extent, a sea of clouds said with a smile. That's why I came to be a teacher of the Demonic Academy. Uncle, you came here to be a teacher? The three of them were even more shocked. A sea of clouds nodded. That's right. After all, this used to be Wu Yin Academy. Nameless is one of us. The Demonic Academy can be seen as the continuation of Wu Yin Academy. It can also be seen as a kind of new life. The three of them fell silent. They could understand Uncle A.C. of Clouds' thoughts. Along the way, they were more familiar with the roads than Nameless, who was leading the way. They remembered the stones by the roadside, the mountain paths, the pavilions, and the long corridors. Every room in the instruction pavilion was filled with countless memories of his fellow disciples and instructors. They had stayed here for more than 10 years. Wu Yin Mountain was their home. I say, Gray Crow, by E. Black Armor King, I'm very happy that you, the 3 heroes of Wu Yin, can still come back. If you still believe in my vision, come back. Now the Academy needs you. The words "come back" made the eyes of the 3 homeless people wet. After a moment of silence, Gray Crow suddenly looked at Lu Chen. Nameless brother, I want to thank you first for preserving the reputation of Wu Yin Academy. It's not impossible for us to join the Demonic Academy, but I don't want to experience the pain of losing the Academy again. Lu Chen frowned and waited for him to continue. We only heard that you defeated Jinghong and Haojin. I still don't quite believe that you, a one-star great cultivator, can defeat Theo the Great. If you want us to join, it at least proves that you have the ability to revive Wu Yin. Oh no, you have the ability to lead the demonic academy to rise. Hearing these words, Lu Chun smiled slightly. Since the other party said so, it seemed that the first batch of disciples was settled. Chapter 9:18. Grey Crow, Theo the Great, 4 stars. By E. Theo the Great, 4 stars. Black Armor King, Theo the Great, 3 stars. Dean of the Demonic Academy, Nameless, 1 star Grand Cultivator. Looking at the 4 people standing on a martial arts field, a sea of clouds shook his head. Xiaomin, is your boss sure he wants to fight 1 against 3? The 3 of them used to be known as the 3 heroes of Thoughtless. They are quite strong. If he can't beat them, then he won't be a new disciple. Xiaomin said he's lazy. If he can finish it in 1 round, he usually won't split it into 2 rounds. Sure enough, she was the one who followed Lu Chen the longest. Xiaomin knew Lu Chen too well. But my boss has been unlucky recently. His most powerful helper is not here, and his body is weak. His strength may be reduced. I know he has a broken arm, but a broken arm can't be healed in a short time. I'm not talking about a broken arm. In short, my boss is very weak now. Didn't you see Sister Green giving him medicine every day? It's just that he hasn't been getting better. I don't know when it will end. A sea of clouds thought carefully. Lu Yi indeed had to cook medicine for the dean in addition to alchemy. His body is so weak, but he can still win the Academy of Thoughtless. A sea of clouds' heart suddenly tightened, and he was indescribably touched. This guy, if I knew, I wouldn't have let him accept the martial arts competition. At this moment, the fight had already begun. The 2 sides had agreed before the competition that they would compete in the state of soul and body, and no physical injuries would be allowed. They would only compete in combat skills, skill strength, and soul strength. Grey Crow, by E, and Black Armor King were known as the 3 heroes of Thoughtless. They usually cooperated together, and the 3 of them had a clear division of labor. Black Armor King, who was a main monk and a secondary fighter, was a tank. He could fight and defend. Grey Crow was the main attacker. He controlled the sword with 1 hand and shot with the other. He could maximize the damage output from a distance. By E practiced medicine, poison, and venomous insects. At the same time, she also learned the skills of Talisman Master. In the face of the opponent's tight attacks and entanglement, Lu Chun directly rushed to the back row with 9 void steps. You want to ambush me? Impossible. Black Armor King roared as 2 huge golden arms appeared behind him. They were at least 100 meters long. Black Armor King's fighting soul quickly merged into the 2 arms. Golden light Buddha body. Huge palms suddenly pressed down on Lu Chun from both sides. Buddha's palm of the universe. The center of the Buddha's palm formed a spiritual energy sealing area, seemingly wanting to trap Lu Chun to death. Senior brother, senior sister. Black Armor King turned around and shouted, "Attack! Immortal trapping domain." 9 immortal slaying swords. 9 swords returned to 1. Poison spirit domain. Heaven tormenting poison. Spirit poison explosion. Ghost order talisman. 100 wraiths. Grey Crow and Bai Yi attacked at the same time. The Buddha's heaven and earth palm trapped the enemy. The 9 banishing immortal swords attacked. The Lingsha poison explosion used spiritual energy as a medium to spread the poison explosion. Finally, there was the restriction type Ghost Command Talisman, which sealed Lu Chen's movement skills. Moreover, their astral bodies and territories were only used at the critical moment. This made it difficult for Lu Chen to know the characteristics of the astral bodies and territories in advance, and he could not react in time. He had to admit that the 3 of them worked well together. This kind of attack and defense were integrated into one, and it was extremely powerful. The 3 of them controlled their positions very accurately, and they did not panic in the face of the battle. There was almost no pause in the chain of skills. Lu Chen could even be sure that they would follow up with another move. The thoughtless 3 heroes were quite strong. At this moment, Lu Chun roared, "Divine demon astral body, come out!" In an instant, Lu Chen's figure was extremely fast. 9 banishing immortal swords and 100 wraiths could not lock onto him. What fast speed? Well, what kind of astral body is this? Gray Crow's eyes widened. An astral body that does not use any skills? I have never seen such a strange astral body. Black Armor King was originally in the state of the Golden Light Buddha body, but at this moment, he was forced to use his giant Buddha arms. Why is my Golden Light Buddha body ineffective? At this moment, 10 streaks of sword chi shot towards him. Formless. Sacred Lotus Sword Heart. The Sea of Clouds was originally a little nervous, but at this point in the battle, seeing that Nameless was almost killed by the 3 heroes, he could not help but feel nervous. Why would Nameless choose to attack Black Armor King? His fighting soul's defense is the most terrifying. He is Theo, the Great 2-star. Under the divine demon astral body, Lu Chen's moves were extremely fast. Black Armor King could not dodge in time and could only take them head-on. Golden Arhut's protection. Battle God's Iron Wall. However, the 5 streaks of sword chi broke through the Golden Arhut's protection and Battle God's Iron Wall. Then, hundreds of streaks of sword chi hit Black Armor King. After a series of explosions, Black Armor King was sent flying hundreds of meters away. After Black Armor King was sent flying, Buddha's Palm of the Universe was immediately deactivated. Lu Chun dodged and avoided the range of the poison explosion. He turned around and unleashed several streaks of sword chi towards Gray Crow. Gray Crow was shocked. Impossible. Sacred Lotus Sword Heart is such a powerful skill. How can it be used infinitely? Just as he was hesitating, the streaks of sword chi had already reached him. Heaven and Earth Sword Array U. Countless streaks of sword chi blocked Gray Crow and quickly formed a defensive array. The defense of the U did not seem to be fixed. Every time the streaks of sword chi hit the U, Gray Crow's face turned paler. However, the U did not break. Lu Chun was also slightly surprised. Gray Crow's U seemed to be related to his own spiritual energy. He could continuously inject spiritual energy into the array and continuously resist the opponent's attacks after activating it. As a sword controller, this skill was very useful. Imperial Sword Astral Body. Just as Gray Crow was about to use the Imperial Sword Astral Body to escape, a strong repulsive force squeezed his astral body out of the sword chi. Astral body is useless in front of me, Lu Chun sneered. At this moment, Bai Yi quickly threw out a talisman. Senior brother, retreat quickly. Speed Golden Talisman. Lu Chun naturally would not let this talisman help Gray Crow escape. He shot out a streak of sword chi towards the Speed Golden Talisman. Gray Crow saw this and also shot out 9 streaks of sword chi to intercept Lu Chun's sword chi. A golden talisman, 9 streaks of sword chi from Gray Crow's 9 immortal slaying swords, and 1 streak of sword chi from Lu Chun's Sacred Lotus Sword Heart collided with each other from 3 directions, causing a loud explosion. The aftermath of the spirit chi dissipated. Although Gray Crow used 9 streaks of sword chi to protect the golden talisman, the golden talisman was still penetrated by the Sacred Lotus Sword Heart. What kind of skill is this? Why is it so overbearing? Bai frowned. It could even penetrate the golden talisman. At the same time, after blocking a few streaks of sword chi, Gray Crow's U finally could not hold on and the U collapsed. A streak of sword chi mercilessly pierced Gray Crow's chest, nailing him directly to the black bricks of the martial arts practice field. In the next second, Lu Chun had already flashed in front of Bai Yi. Whether it was a pharmacist or a talisman master, it was very dangerous to be close to someone. However, Lu Chun did not continue to attack. He just looked at Bai Yi indifferently. Do we still need to continue fighting? Don't be so smug. I haven't lost yet. Bai Yi was also hot-tempered. However, just as she was about to attack, she suddenly realized that the spirit chi around her was completely out of her control. Lu Chun smiled slightly. I knew you wouldn't give up so easily. However, this is also good. The Academy, I want you to be like this. Genesis. Dozens of sword chi appeared around her. Even though Bai Yi desperately dodged, she was still unable to dodge more and more sword chi. The Origin God once said that if you wanted to deal with status skills, you had to have a stronger status skill than him. Unfortunately, Bai Yi had yet to comprehend a realm stronger than Genesis. At this time, a sea of clouds was already dumbfounded. Genesis, he's just a one-star great cultivator. How could he comprehend such a skill? This guy's actual combat is too terrifying. Chapter 919. As a pharmacist and a talisman master, Bai Yi's movements were quite agile. She dodged the sword shadows again and again. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Finally, facing more and more sword shadows, Bai Yi's dodging was futile. Seeing that Bai Yi couldn't hold on any longer, Lu Chun put away the Genesis. At this moment, Bai Yi's war soul had suffered countless injuries. Her spiritual energy was exhausted, and she collapsed to the ground. Lu Chun naturally didn't go all out in the competition, but the strength of these three people surprised Lu Chun. Black Armor King's shield blocked the 5-sword Saint Sword Lotus Heart, and the war soul was hit twice before she was sent flying. His defense was terrifying. Grey Crow's sword formation was quite mysterious. It could borrow strength and neutralize 6 or 7 sword chi. Bai Yi could hold on for more than 5 minutes in the Genesis. Her endurance and movement were quite strong. Unlike Black Armor King and Grey Crow, Bai Yi stimulated almost all of her potential in the Genesis. Her movement, celestial body, on-the-spot reaction, and so on were all displayed to the extreme. There was no lack of wonderful performances. Even Lu Chen's eyes lit up. The thoughtless three heroes really live up to their reputation. Lu Chen nodded with satisfaction. However, no one around could agree with Lu Chen. A sea of clouds walked over in shock. 1 against 3, the battle was over in a few minutes. However, after the battle, this guy still acted as if nothing had happened. Obviously, he didn't use his full strength. Even if it was him, facing the 3 of them together, it wouldn't be easier than Nameless. Dean, you've comprehended your own status skill. Lu Chen nodded. It's not very strong at the moment. If I encounter an expert, it's difficult to have enough time to activate it. I'm just taking advantage of the fact that they don't know me well. A sea of clouds' eyes widened. This guy actually thinks that his status skill isn't strong enough? Should I say that he's insatiable, or should I say that he's hardworking? Students who can comprehend status skills can directly enter Immortal Academy. A sea of clouds couldn't help but emphasize. Moreover, the principle of world creation coincides with Wuji giving birth to Taiji, Taiji giving birth to Yin and Yang giving birth to the 4 divisions, and Yin and Yang reinforcing and restraining each other. Isn't this kind of state skill powerful? Lu Chen shrugged. Why make it sound so mysterious? In short, in my opinion, the use of actual combat is still limited. Not only does it require enough time to activate, but it also requires a large amount of spiritual energy. In the end, it's still a little lacking when dealing with top experts. You don't know how lucky you are. A sea of clouds couldn't think of a better description. Why didn't he come to Wu Yin Academy earlier? Why didn't he meet such a student when he was the dean? Perhaps this was fate. Because there was no physical damage, the 3 heroes of the Thoughtless Sword returned to their original states without any injuries. The 3 of them returned to Lu Chun and looked at each other. Nameless, what kind of skill is your Sacred Lotus Sword Heart? How can you keep using it? Grey Crow said unconvinced. Lu Chun smiled slightly. My Sacred Lotus Sword Heart can be used at most 2,160 swords. At most, it can be used 4 times in a battle. It's just that my physical body is damaged, so I can't use many skills. We're just comparing notes, so I naturally have to use it sparingly. I'm just using the formless technique to split a move. When everyone heard this, their faces changed greatly. 2,160 swords? Is this true? Lu Chan smiled slightly, turned around, and waved the remaining 1,000 swords together. In an instant, the overwhelming sword chi shot up into the sky. The clouds in the sky were directly cut into pieces. This time, the sacred lotus sword heart couldn't be kept for long, so it wasn't a pity to use it directly. This was the terrifying part of the formless technique. Originally, Lu Chen's sacred lotus sword heart could only be used once. If it wasn't against a boss, it would be fine if it didn't hit, but if it did, the damage would definitely be far greater. But now, Lu Chen could split these sword moves, so there was no need to waste damage at all. One move to 1,000 moves. If I'm hit by the entire sacred lotus sword heart, what kind of terrifying damage would that be? Gray Crow's eyes widened. My Imperial Word technique can only deal 6 or 7 swords to Huaxia, 5 swords to break through 2 of my defenses. Is this damage really at the 6th heaven? Black Armor King was still scared. Then, Nameless Dean, how did you comprehend Genesis? If you don't take it back, will it continue to exist indefinitely? But he was more concerned about Genesis. After all, she didn't feel the power of the sacred lotus sword heart. Lu Chen thought for a moment and said, I comprehended the 72 Chaos Heaven Dipper formation modified by the Yin-Yang Pearl in the God's Illusion. I experienced the scene when the heavenly star source world was first created, then changed the attribute of my spiritual core. I integrated my consciousness into it in the state of an Ata and comprehended Genesis. If I don't take it back, unless you can break Genesis, it will continue to operate. Once you inject spiritual energy, it will become more and more perfect. The 3 heroes, including a sea of clouds, were all stunned. God's illusion? What was that? They had heard of the 72 Chaos Heaven Dipper formation before. It seemed to be a high-level formation, but what the hell was it that it was modified by the Yin-Yang Pearl? The scene when the heavenly star source world was first created, changing the attribute of one's spiritual core. Using spiritual energy? An Ata? Even Theo, the Great, hadn't come into contact with these things. Even the Sacred Academy couldn't come into contact with them. What kind of existence was this person? Why did he know so many things that others didn't know? The most precious thing was that he was willing to tell them these things. There was no doubt that they could learn more advanced knowledge by following this nameless Dean. Then, they cupped their fists and bowed to Lu Chen at the same time. Gray Crow took the lead. Dean's strength has convinced the 3 of us. The 3 of us are willing to join the Demonic Academy. There's no place more suitable for us than here. From now on, the 3 of us are disciples of the Demonic Academy. Please take us in, Dean. Bai said. Please take us in, Dean. Black Armor King cupped his fists and said. Lu Chen looked at a sea of clouds, who smiled at him. Lu Chen said with a smile, Welcome home. The Demonic Academy finally had students. Looking at the names of the 3 students on the interface, Lu Chen felt a sense of accomplishment. From now on, you are the founding members of our Demonic Academy. Lu Chen looked at the 4 people in front of him with a smile. By the way, old Sea of Clouds, are there any other disciples of Thoughtless? A Sea of Clouds shook his head helplessly. At present, only Gray Crow, Bai E, and Black Armor King have replied. The others, Bai E suddenly said, Uncle, except for the 3 of us, the other brothers seem to have joined other sections. Oh, there's a new disciple. What's his name again? He seems to be stubborn and has been wandering outside. Who is he? A Sea of Clouds asked. What's his name again? Let me think. I think his name is Yi Fan. Yi Fan, a Sea of Clouds suddenly exclaimed. Lu Chen asked curiously, Old Sea of Clouds, why do you have such a big reaction? A Sea of Clouds didn't seem to want to mention this in front of others. He just said perfunctorily, Oh, nothing. I'm just curious. He has only been in the Demonic Academy of Thoughtless for a few months. Why is he unwilling to join other academies? Speaking of which, it seems difficult for that child to go to other academies. He can't afford the tuition. Chapter 9:20. Oh, by the way, remember to pay your tuition fees. A Sea of Clouds changed the topic to tuition fees. 10 million each. 10 million. The 3 of them were stunned. 10 million. Isn't it a bit expensive? Gray Crow asked. Lu Chen shook his head. It's still the same price. The tuition fees won't change. The 3 of them looked at each other. Actually, Lu Chen didn't need them to say anything. They must think it was expensive, but they were too embarrassed to say it out loud. He lowered her head and thought for a long time. With the president's strength, 10 million isn't too expensive. Just now, I seem to have some enlightenment. Suddenly, he took out a black card from her backpack and placed it on the table. President, this is my tuition fee. Inside is 10 million spirit stones from the spirit stone business. Senior sister, you're rich. Black Armor King's eyes widened. He glanced at Black Armor King. Come on, don't tell me you don't have money. There are few wars in the sixth heaven and frequent trade. There are even star-level merchant ships. One trip can make hundreds of thousands of spirit stones. Black Armor King smiled and took out a black card. President, this is mine. I've taken a lot of private jobs recently and made some money. Only Gray Crow took out a few cards. This one is for 500,000. This one is for 100,000. And this one. This is the VIP card of 100 Flowers Park. I'm sorry I took the wrong one. Strange, why do I have this? Someone must have put it here. The group looked at him for a long time and managed to gather more than 4 million spirit stones. President, I only have 4,323,000 spirit stones. Can you let me gather some more? Lu Chun was speechless. It was a miracle that this guy still had money on him. Senior brother, I'll lend it to you first. 1 month's profit is 10%. Black Armor King found a business opportunity and took out another black card. You damn fatty. How much did you earn? 1 month's profit is 1 million spirit stones. Are you a loan shark? I'm your senior brother. How can you give me such an expensive loan? Senior brother, you still have the nerve to talk about me? Who told you to always go to 100 Flowers Park? Besides, I'm not rolling interest with you. Anyway, whether or not you can become one of the first elders is up to you. I'm not forcing you. If your batch doesn't make it in, you'll have to call me senior brother in the future. Hey, you damn fatty. Gray Crow was about to go crazy. See how I'll deal with you in the future. First, I'll borrow 6 million. 7 million. I'll have to keep some for myself. To 100 Flowers Park, Black Armor King smirked. It's none of your business. Give it to me. It had to be said that in the 6th layer heaven, people were really willing to spend money to increase their strength. In the blink of an eye, Lu Chun had earned 30 million spirit stones. When Lu Chun was in the 4th layer of heaven, he was filthy rich. When he reached the 5th layer of heaven, he did not have to worry about food and clothing. When he reached the 6th layer of heaven, from the expressions of these 3 people, it seemed that his few million was not even worth mentioning. Say, do you think the tuition is set low? Lu Chun pondered. A sea of clouds, Gray Crow, and Black Armor King hurriedly stood up and rushed to Lu Chun. Dean, it's not low. Please don't raise the price. We can't afford it if it's raised again. Dean, how evil are you? How can a lower house charge more than the Sacred Institute? It seemed that everyone was against him raising the price. Lu Chun had no choice but to maintain the original price for the time being. The 3 heroes of Thoughtless had now become the 3 heroes of Immortal and Devil. With their addition, the Demonic Academy finally gained some popularity. Louis came to the room with a bowl of medicine. Everyone was surprised to see Lu Chun drinking the medicine. Dean, why are you still drinking medicine? Are you injured? He asked, can I take a look? Why didn't you say so earlier? If I had known, I wouldn't have asked for the competition. Black Armor King was ashamed. Don't mind it. Lu Chun waved his hand. It's an old problem. Little Green can take care of me. In the afternoon, we'll go to the recruitment office to recruit new people. As a new academy, we have to recruit 50 people in the first month. Now I've only recruited 3 of you, so I still need 47 more. Dean, we'll go with you. You're weak, and Uncle Master is old. You can leave some trivial things to us. Yes, now we're also members of the Demonic Academy. It's our duty to help. Lu Chun smiled. Okay, let's go after lunch and see if we can get a good seat. Gray Crow liked to visit the 100 Flowers Park, but he was very reliable when there was a need. At the recruitment office, the Demonic Academy spent money to rent a recruitment office. The tables, chairs, banners, and bulletin boards were all made by him. He stood in front of the booth and handed out flyers while Black Armor King shouted. In terms of recruitment, the Demonic Academy was no different from the other academies. Lu Chun and a sea of clouds sat there and rested. Old Sea, are all these new people from the fifth heaven? Lu Chun asked. Yes, there are many new people entering the fifth heaven every month. This is the best place to learn about the other academies. Is there more than one fifth heaven? Of course there's more than one. A sea of clouds looked at Lu Chun in surprise. Their dean was strong, but his basic knowledge was too weak. Lu Chun nodded. Now he understood. It probably meant that it was like the first layer of heaven to the second layer of heaven and a large number of fifth layer of heaven combined. But now it was merged into a real world. Then how do we return to the previous heaven domain? When your reputation reaches a certain level, you can use a special teleportation gate. However, Xingyuan continent is too small, so there's no such teleportation gate. Reputation? Yes, don't you have a reputation in your academy panel? At the same time, it's also your personal reputation. It's just that as the dean, your personal reputation is merged with the dean's reputation. In addition, the dean's reputation is different from personal reputation. The dean's reputation comes from the results of the academy, the fame of the students, and so on. It's mainly linked to the academy. As for personal reputation, it's your own fame. The dean's reputation is gained quickly, the upper limit is high, and the authority is great. However, it requires a lot more reputation to level up. Lu Chun nodded. He had the dean's reputation. It could be said that there were pros and cons. There were many new people around, but those who knew about the recruitment hall were not like Lu Chun, who knew nothing about the sixth heaven. Most of them had been in the sixth heaven for a few months and had a certain understanding of it. They were just conflicted about which academy to choose. Demonic Academy? I've never heard of it. A few new people stopped at their recruitment hall. What? A lower house? Boring. Seeing the academy's introduction, those people immediately turned around and left. This was not the first batch of people. Many people left without even asking when they saw that they were from a lower house. However, there were few greedy people who came to ask about it. In the end, when they were told that the tuition fee was 10 million, they ran away. No one could stop them. It had been 2 hours since they arrived at the recruitment hall. The surrounding recruitment halls, regardless of the size of the academy, were filled with people asking all kinds of questions. Only the Divine Devil Academy was deserted and deserted. Dean, no one came to ask about the admission. Black Armor King returned to the backstage with a sad face. Grey Crow and the others also came back. Sai, once they see the lower house, they don't care about other questions at all. We don't even have a chance to explain. If this goes on, the requirement of 50 people per month will be a little difficult. Dean, we have to think of a way. Lu Chun frowned slightly. Indeed, he had to think of a way. Generally speaking, in order to attract customers, businesses on Earth would organize activities in front of their shops. Suddenly, Lu Chun had an idea. He walked to the open space in front of the Demonic Academy's recruitment hall and asked by E to set up a formation to block off a large area. Then, he opened the Genesis array and injected some spiritual energy. Grey Crow, set up a sign here. Whoever can last more than 10 minutes will be rewarded with 10 million spirit stones. Chapter 921. When the notice board was released, a large group of people had gathered in front of the Demonic Academy recruitment point. What's going on? Stay here for 10 minutes, and the reward is 10 million spirit stones? Except for the simple defensive array outside, there's only a unique space inside. For the newcomers from the fifth layer of heaven, most of them didn't even know about the existence of status skills. It feels very calm inside, and the fluctuation of spiritual energy is very small. Is there any danger here? Someone stretched his neck and looked inside. It could be sealed by such a simple defensive array. How powerful can it be? An elf cultivator opened his heavenly eye and observed carefully for a while. He frowned and said, "Not only is the spiritual energy inside unusually calm, but it's also very thin. Who can't last 10 minutes in such an environment? Demonic Academy? I've never heard of this name, but it seems to be very rich. 10 million. With this money, you could go to any academy for tuition." As more and more people gathered, many people naturally noticed the recruitment notice of the Demonic Academy. Lower house. 10 million for tuition? Have they lost their minds? It doesn't matter. You don't have to enter their academy if you pass the test. They said so themselves. You can use any skill. Damn, they probably think we're all rookies. I wonder how we came to the 6th layer of heaven. As long as they entered the 6th layer of heaven through the Tower of Heaven normally, who didn't have confidence in themselves. Seeing that more and more people were gathering around, a sea of clouds was a little uncertain. He said to Lu Chun, "Dean, how many spirit stones do you have with you?" "A few hundred. It's enough to finish dinner." "It's not dinner." "Well, I mean, look, there's so many people around now. There's so many hidden dragons and crouching tigers here. What if someone survives for more than 10 minutes? 10 minutes? Lu Chun smiled slightly. Bai Yi only lasted for 5 minutes. How many people can compete with Bai Yi when they just arrived at the 6th layer of heaven? And the intensity of the last 5 minutes is not comparable to the first 5 minutes. While they were talking, someone had already entered the creation space to try. The first to eat crabs was a devil race cultivator. The devil race was powerful to begin with, and their racial advantage made them set their sights very high. Red Devil, don't hold on for more than 20 minutes. Otherwise, the demonic academy will give you 20 million, his friend joked leisurely. That's not bad either. It'll be great if we can earn our tuition fees as well. When the time comes, we'll take the money from the demonic academy and go to Xinghua Sacred Academy. Wouldn't that be great? Another person said. Red Devil smiled. Don't talk nonsense. If you want to earn money, do it yourselves. Don't waste time on this kind of opportunity to pick up money. I'll go first. Red Devil smiled confidently at Bai. Beauty, do you want to open the defensive array yourself? Or do you want to break it? Bai Yi coldly snorted. This array formation is the most basic array formation. Now, our demonic academy is recruiting students. If you think you can beat me, then join our academy if you have the ability. With that, Bai Yi opened a passage. Go in. Red Devil smiled. Don't think of using this method to trick me into going to your trash academy. I'm here to make money. With that, he strode into the creation space. As soon as he entered the space, he directly floated in mid-air. The demon's control of spiritual power is indeed amazing. He can actually use spiritual energy to float in the air. The time has already begun. The key is whether or not the demon god will pay in the end. If they don't pay, their reputation will be completely tarnished. Red Devil floated in midair and looked at Bai Yi leisurely. He raised his eyebrows. That's it. Anyone can hold on for more than 10 minutes. Your demonic academy can just wait to go bankrupt. Just as he finished speaking, spiritual energy gradually formed a vortex around him. Then, a black and white sword gradually appeared. Then, the long sword stabbed at Red Devil. Red Devil snorted. Is this the mystery of this space? It's really disappointing. He casually sent out a palm wind and forced the long sword back. However, after the long sword was forced back, it quickly split into two and stabbed at Red Devil again. Red Devil frowned slightly. What's going on? Are you kidding me? It's just two swords, demonic halberds. Break for me. The long sword was no match and was directly sent flying. However, a moment later, the two long swords split into four. This time, the speed of the four long swords was even faster than before. This, Red Devil's eyes widened. What kind of strange space is this? A sea of clouds, who was watching the battle from afar, asked Lu Chun in surprise. Dean, why is the creation space weaker than before? Before, he had to face dozens of sword shadows at the beginning. Lu Chun shook his head. That was a martial arts competition. Naturally, I wanted to end the battle as soon as possible. I injected a lot of spiritual energy, but now, let them play a little more. It's just nice to attract some people. A sea of clouds finally understood that the Dean's creation space was simple mode. On the other side, after Red Devil swung away the sword shadows several times, the number of sword shadows inside began to increase exponentially. The speed of the sword shadows also began to increase. Red Devil, who had been full of confidence, had no choice but to dodge. However, once the creation space was opened, even if the people inside collided with the sword shadows, The creation space itself was also constantly splitting, transforming from nothing to something. As a result, the sword shadows inside began to become more and more terrifying. 20, 50, 100. In 2 minutes, the sword shadows in the creation space had instantly increased to 360. They crazily chased after Red Devil. Red Devil had just made a bold statement. Now, facing more than 300 sword shadows at once, he was already struggling and couldn't take care of himself. Damn it, how could this be? Soul and body as one. In 2 minutes, Red Devil activated soul and body as one. Lu Chun shook his head. It only took 2 minutes to activate soul and body as one. This space is far inferior to the one by E is facing. This person's strength is not very good. If he signs up, we don't want him. Grey Crow was responsible for recording everyone's situation and made a cross behind Red Devil. After activating soul and body as one, Red Devil's speed skyrocketed and his defense greatly increased. However, in the face of the relentless pursuit and more sword shadows, in less than 20 seconds, Red Devil's body was hit by many swords and was immediately in a thrilling situation. Let me out. Quick, I'm going to die here. In the distance, Lu Chan raised his hand and all the sword shadows in the creation space dissipated. Everything returned to normal. Red Devil staggered out from inside. When he passed by E sneered, "The strength of this space is not even 1/10 of my training. You can only hold on for 2.5 minutes? You still want to break my formation? Go and train for a few more years." Red Devil had a belly full of anger, but he couldn't release it at this moment. Your academy's training uses this thing? But he naturally wouldn't say that she was defeated by the space when she was competing with the dean. Yes, what's wrong? Then what are you so proud of? With this kind of training method, I only need 3 years to surpass you. Red Devil's face was unconvinced, but soon his momentum weakened again. I want to sign up at your academy. I'm willing to pay 10 million. Where can I sign up? Grey Crow walked over. I'm sorry, we're not very satisfied with your test results. The dean said that we won't accept any money. What? I'm still young. I can grow. I have potential and determination. I'm very strong at our place. It's useless even if you're strong. The dean didn't take a fancy to you. Grey Crow said ruthlessly. You didn't say at the beginning that it would depend on the test time. I can actually hold on for a while more. Friend, didn't your friends say that you want to go to Starlight? It's better to go there and take a look. They're the Holy Academy. We're just a lower academy, and the fees are expensive. We can't compare to them. No, this space is too useful for cultivation. I must enter your academy. Give me one more chance, just one more time. This time I must perform well. Senior brother, you go and plead with the dean. Grey Crow was dumbfounded. Why did this guy suddenly change into a different person and shamelessly insist on going to their demonic academy? He even called him senior brother directly? He didn't treat himself as an outsider at all. Chapter 922. Red Devil was too stubborn. Grey Crow had no choice but to run back to Lu Chun to ask for his opinion. Dean, what should we do if he insists on entering our academy? Lu Chun thought for a moment and said, Do you think I can't see his potential? Sai, if he really wants to try, let him try again in 2 days. Oh, okay. Grey Crow passed on Lu Chen's words to Red Devil. Red Devil excitedly opened his eyes wide. Okay, when I recover, I will definitely do better than this time. Senior brother, senior sister, just you wait. I will definitely become your junior brother. He couldn't help but want to laugh. Don't be fooled by how arrogant this guy was at the beginning. He didn't give up so easily. Red Devil lasted for 2 minutes and 31 seconds before instantly losing. When everyone saw this, the atmosphere suddenly became lively. Is there an array here? But I didn't find any array core. It's a bit strange. I thought that the demon guy was quite strong. In the end, he only lasted for 2.5 minutes. Sure enough, you can't judge a book by its cover. The Demonic Academy uses this kind of training method? That seems interesting. Let's give it a try. It seems that to join the Demonic Academy, Other than the ridiculously expensive tuition, you must also achieve a certain result in the test. Otherwise, they won't accept you. I wonder how long I can last. Next, the people who tried the test began to line up. The second person activated Soul Body as one at the beginning and only lasted for 1 minute and 18 seconds. After that person came out, he looked as if he had benefited a lot. Senior sister, with my results, can I join the Demonic Academy? I can pay twice the tuition. Your results are not as good as Red Devil's. This is not a problem of the tuition. In fact, our dean said that he set the price at this level considering that newcomers don't have much money. Black Armor King said seriously, what we want is not money, but a heart that desires to become stronger. I have it. I have a heart that desires to become stronger. This space is simply a cultivation paradise. I've been here for just over a minute, but the endless pressure made me feel like I was about to have an epiphany. If you do, why are we all newbies? You are so much worse than Red Devil, Black Armor King said, shaking his head. He's a demon. I'm a half-demon. I'm at least in the top 10 of my race. Young man, we don't care about race. As long as you're strong enough, it's fine. It seems like your top 10 isn't enough. Keep working hard. There's still many people lining up behind you. Come on, next one. The second tester walked to the recruitment point of the Demonic Academy in frustration and refused to leave for a long time. All of a sudden, people from the recruitment office began to rush towards the Demonic Academy crazily. They were not there just for show. Once they came, they could not leave. They surrounded the open space in front of the recruitment office, forming several circles of people. He tested 7 or 8 people, and only one of them took 2 minutes and 10 seconds. The other's performance was average. Dean, you've rejected several people. Let's at least recruit a few to fill the bottom. A sea of clouds could not sit still anymore. There's no loss in recruiting them anyway. Liu Chun shook his head. Old C, the goal of our Demonic Academy is not just to meet the enrollment requirements. We have to participate in various competitions in the future. If the disciples are not strong, I can't be the one to compete every time. I'm just a dean. It's not good for my reputation to compete with those students every day. A sea of clouds thought about it and felt that it made sense. Looking at the current situation, it did not seem too difficult to recruit 50 people a month. The testing speed was very fast. After all, each person was done in 1 or 2 minutes. 10 million was a large number for many newbies. However, as long as they were disciples from the creation space, they did not think about money at all. They surrounded the reception desk of the recruitment office and asked about the Demonic Academy. Senior brother, are my results really not enough to enter the academy? Please make an exception. I lasted for almost 2 minutes. Can you give me another chance? It's so difficult. How can anyone last for more than 5 minutes? Yes, it's too difficult. I was fine in the beginning, but the difficulty increased sharply. If you were slower, I would have died in there. What do you know? This is the only way to stimulate the greatest potential. Think about it. If you can have such high-intensity training every day, how much benefit will it be to your cultivation? Senior brother, am I right? Black Armor King was so annoyed that he had to run back and ask Liu Chun, Dean, should we set a result? How long can we last to meet the requirements? They all come to ask me. I'm so annoyed. Liu Chun frowned slightly, thought for a moment, and then asked the sea of clouds, Old Sea, what do you think? How many minutes can a newbie that you're interested in last? Using Bai Yi's situation as a reference, I estimate that more than 5 minutes is an excellent newbie. 5 minutes? Isn't that too short? Dean, the difficulty of this creation space increases too quickly. A difference of 1 minute is like heaven and earth. You can't use yourself as the standard. Otherwise, I'm afraid our academy won't be able to continue operating. After all, we still need to recruit people. People like you are basically, not normal people. After hearing this, Liu Chun nodded heavily. It made sense. Then 6 minutes. 6 minutes. This requirement is really low. If you can't even reach 6 minutes, I won't have much interest in accepting you. 6 minutes. Okay, Dean, then I'll add this to our recruitment notice. The standard of the demonic academy was out. At least 6 minutes in the unique space. This way, they could spend 10 million spirit stones to enter the demonic academy. After the notice was posted, the group of people outside almost exploded. 6 minutes? What a joke. That's at least 1 or 2 stars for Theo the Great. Cultivation level is secondary. The key is actual combat ability. That kind of attack is to force people into a desperate situation. Without actual combat ability, what's the use of cultivation level? The requirements are too high. Those who can enter the Holy Academy may not be able to enter the Demonic Academy. But there's no such training method in the Holy Academy. I'd rather enter the Demonic Academy. No, I have to go back and study it. I must break through 6 minutes. Unknowingly, the recruitment office in front of the other academies suddenly became deserted. Occasionally, kittens and puppies would pass by. What's going on? Where's everyone? The students in charge of recruiting walked out one after another. Looking around, everyone seemed to be in the same situation. What do you mean? There's no one in front of the Holy Academy? Where did all the newbies go? While they were talking, they saw a large group of people in a secluded corner. There were at least 1,000 of them. Their side was deserted, but the other side was exploding with people. Which academy is over there? I heard that it's the Demonic Academy. They're doing a test. A person who had just inquired about the news came back and informed everyone. What's going on? The students of Xinghua Holy Academy were full of anger. The few demons that they had agreed on before actually said that they wouldn't join Xinghua and wanted to go to the Demonic Academy. Let's go and take a look. I want to see just what kind of methods this Divine Fiend Academy used to be able to pull people from our Starflower. Chapter 923. As more and more people came to take the test, some experts began to emerge. 308, 342 for 25, the record was being broken again and again. The one who just took 425 was a demigod. He had long pointed ears and was communicating with the Black Armor King. I can't even get into the Demonic Academy with this result. Your result is indeed the best, but our dean said that you have to last for at least 6 minutes. That's too much. I've defeated so many experts along the way. I just came to the 6th layer of heaven, and I already received invitations from 3 sacred academies. Why don't you go and take a look at those 3 academies? The other party was actually pushing him away. The demigod expert gnashed his teeth in hatred. However, it seemed that every galaxy and every race had one thing in common, which was that they were cheap. The more they rejected it, the more he wanted to enter. I've already told you, don't bully the young for being poor. Just you wait. I'll prepare for 2 days. I'll definitely break through 6 minutes. Looking at the demigod expert leaving in a huff, the Black Armor King turned back to look at the dean sitting behind. At this time, the continuous testing made the dean a little weak. Although he didn't need to care about the operation of the creation space, when the tester couldn't take it anymore, the dean had to pull him back and restore the space to its original state. Logically speaking, this kind of spiritual energy consumption wasn't much, but the dean seemed very tired. Suddenly, a warm current flowed into his heart. Unknowingly, Grey Crow came to the Black Armor King's side and looked at the dean. Sigh, the dean's health is really worrying. The 3 of us were so insensible at that time and fought with the dean. Fatty, in order to develop the Divine Devil Academy, the dean spared no effort. It's really too hard. The Black Armor King nodded. I heard Martial Uncle talking about the fight for the old site of Wu Yin Academy. At that time, the dean challenged all 20 academies alone. His body was obviously so weak, but in order to take over Wu Yin's territory, he gave it his all. Just thinking about it, the Black Armor King's eyes were a little wet. If only we were there at that time, the dean wouldn't have to shoulder everything by himself. Fatty, do you think the Dragon Rain pill will have some effect on the dean's body? He's obviously weak and needs to be nourished. Cut the crap. Do you think the principal is like you, going around 100 Flowers Park every day? The dean's body was weak, not his kidney. He must be injured. Look at his arm. I really can't imagine what kind of super expert could cut off the dean's arm. Hey, what are you 2 doing? There's so many people here. You say you feel sorry for the dean, but can't you do more work? Bai Yi glared at the two of them and said fiercely. On the other side, Lu Chan felt a little better after drinking the medicine that Lu Yi had given him. In fact, using Genesis repeatedly was quite beneficial to him. After all, Genesis had just been formed. Every time he used Genesis, he would become more familiar with his skill and have a deeper understanding of it. However, the physical exhaustion was still too great. It seemed that he would be able to test another 4 or 5 people today. Boss, you have to rest well. Little Green looked at Lu Chen worriedly. Yes, I'll test a few more. I should be done by today. Lu Chen then looked at the testing area and shook his head slightly. It's a pity that I still haven't recruited anyone. A sea of clouds muttered at the side. It's all because your requirements are too high. For minutes. It's already not easy for a newcomer to last 4 minutes. Every extra minute increases the difficulty by several times. Just look at that demigod just now. In the past, I would have chased after him. Lu Chen laughed. Old C, today is only the first day. What's the rush? The few people who took the test later all had good results, lasting more than 3 minutes. Of course, this did not mean that the Red Fiend was weak. After all, he was impatient. The first one to take the test would always be at a disadvantage. Everyone who came out of the Genesis space was shocked. For an immortal cultivator, experiencing the feeling of being forced into a hopeless situation with their own eyes was the best training. It's more difficult than I thought. Just now, I used all my skills to the extreme. It felt like if I stopped for half a second, I would die in there. This kind of high-intensity training is what I need. It can combine all of my combat skills together. This is many times better than any teacher's guidance. Senior brothers, have you been around recently? I'll come back tomorrow. I'll definitely enter your demonic academy. At this moment, the demonic academy issued a notice. After the last 5 people were tested, today's enrollment was over. Many people who did not get their turn were extremely disappointed. They all asked the demonic academy about the arrangements for the next day. At this moment, a large group of people pushed through the crowd and walked to the testing area. When the other newcomers saw the badges on their chests, they had to suppress the anger that had just risen. A few people went to look at the notice next to the testing area and read it out loud in a strange voice. If you last 10 minutes, you'll be rewarded with 10 million spirit stones. If, you last 6 minutes, you'll be qualified to join the demonic academy bracket lower house. The few people in the lead were all disciples of the more famous academies in the recruitment area. Star Glory Academy, Heaven Pavilion Academy, 5 Elements Academy. There were about 70 or 80 people in total. When they heard that person finish reading the notice, they sneered. I was wondering why there were so many people here. It turns out that someone put in a lot of effort. Gray Crow saw these people and walked over with a frown. Hey, what are you doing? This is the recruitment area of our demonic academy. Why don't you recruit in your own place? Why are you here? You're interfering with our normal enrollment. He glared at these people. If you want to make trouble, we'll report you to the recruitment office immediately. You're looking for trouble, right? You can choose the place, but don't interfere with our enrollment. Black Armor King stood aside. This guy didn't look very tall sitting there. Now that he stood up, his body was as strong as that of demons, heavenly demons, and even half-orcs. He was quite sturdy. Speaking of which, these 3 people were all old disciples of the Wu Yin Academy. These disciples were far less experienced than them. Of course, they were not afraid at all. Among these academies, there was only one sacred academy. Naturally, the people from Xinghua Sacred Academy became their temporary decision-makers. That person snorted coldly. Watch your tone when talking to people from Xinghua. Any one of our senior brothers can challenge your entire demonic academy. A newly established lower academy dares to be so arrogant. Of course, we're not here to cause trouble. Can't we learn a little? They didn't even think of the demonic academy. They were worried about the rules of the recruitment office. Every academy here was recruiting their own. They were not allowed to cause trouble. Even Xinghua was no exception. That person rolled his eyes and suddenly said, "What kind of special space is this? Surviving for 10 minutes will reward 10 million? I don't think there's a rule that it has to be a newcomer's test. Gray Crow and the others suddenly felt their hearts tighten. Damn, when they wrote the notice, they didn't expect such a thing to happen. So they wrote it more concisely. In the end, they seemed to have found a loophole. Oh, it didn't say how many times a person can take the test. Ha ha. How did you write this notice? Since that's the case, then why don't you let us brothers earn some spirit stones? Chapter 924. The entire testing area was in an uproar. These old disciples of the academy were actually going to challenge the special space? Oh my God, wouldn't they definitely be able to pass 10 minutes if they came? This is going to bankrupt the demonic academy. Even Star China is here. Then the demonic academy is finished. Although the seniority of the people in charge of recruitment is not high, in order to show the strength of the academy to the newcomers, they are all very strong. But he was very flustered. This creation space was far weaker than the one that defeated her. The disciples of Star China Academy were very strong. Would they be able to last more than 10 minutes? There was an oversight on the notice, but fortunately they had already announced that there would be 5 people in the final test. Thinking of this, he hurriedly said, "We have already said that there will be 5 more tests. If you want to challenge it, you can only challenge it 5 times. In this way, even if they passed, they would lose 50 million at most. But even 50 million for the newly established demonic academy was enough to make the demonic academy on the verge of bankruptcy. They couldn't even afford the recruitment fees. If the dean had accepted a few people, it wouldn't have ended up like this. You guys, if you want to challenge it, you have to line up." Black Armor King found a good reason. The Star China disciple said to the newcomers, "Everyone, do you want to see who can last more than 10 minutes? If you want, then let us take the test first. This way, you can also see if their God Demon Academy is worthy of you joining." These newcomers ultimately chose the academy. So many people had taken the test before, but none of them could last more than 10 minutes. They really wanted to see if anyone could last more than 10 minutes. This senior brother, "You guys go first." The newcomer in front said, "We also want to see how strong 10 minutes is." "Yes, you guys go first. We can also see the gap between us and the old disciples." The person behind also said. The Star China disciple smiled. "Thank you. All right, this time the last move had been resolved. Now, can we begin?" Gray Crow, and Black Armor King's faces were extremely unnatural. They had to let these people in now. Otherwise, their reputation would be ruined, and they would not be able to recruit people in the future. "Let them try." A voice suddenly came from behind. The 3 of them looked behind them. It was Martial Uncle, a sea of clouds. "Uncle Master." A sea of clouds walked to the front of the crowd and looked at them. "Our dean is also tired, so there are only 5 spots. You can make the most of it." Open the formation. 5 spots? Senior Yin, you want to minimize the losses, right? But it doesn't matter. 50 million is 50 million. After all, you God Fiends don't have much money. With Martial Uncle's instructions, finally opened the array formation. The first to go up was a disciple from Heaven Pavilion Academy. This person seemed to be the senior in charge of their recruitment this time. "Thank you, Senior Brother Yin. I won't stand on ceremony then. I'll earn 10 million first. Senior Brother Lien Zhan, please come to our 100 Flowers Park after you've earned enough money." Don't worry, just order whatever you want." Lien Zhan chuckled and walked into the creation space. In the beginning, the spirit chi in the space was thin and the circulation was slow. However, when someone came in, the circulation of the spirit chi began to accelerate. Gradually, the first sword shadow was formed. "That's it? You're using this kind of trash to trick newbies?" Lien Zhan put his hands behind his back and easily dodged the attack. Not long after, the second sword shadow was formed. "Ha ha ha. To be honest, if I wasn't in a hurry, I could stay here for as long as I wanted." In 10 seconds, 4 sword shadows appeared. At the same time, the speed of the sword shadows was faster than before. In 20 seconds, 8 sword shadows appeared. In 40 seconds, there were 16 sword shadows. It was unknown if Lien Zhan had heard of some trick, but he didn't take the initiative to block the sword shadows. Or maybe he looked down on the creation space and only wanted to dodge with his body, so he didn't fight back. Coincidentally, the number of sword shadows in the space did indeed slow down. However, in 1 minute and 20 seconds, there were still 32 sword shadows. At the same time, the speed of the sword shadows was very fast. As long as they were dodged, they would quickly condense again and chase after Lien Zhan. At this moment, Lien Zhan began to narrow his eyes. Every time he moved, a sword shadow would immediately follow. When he moved again, the sword shadow would quickly catch up. He didn't activate any status, but it was already a bit strenuous for him. Phantom Doppelganger. Lien Zhan began to use his skill. His doppelganger quickly dispersed the attack of the sword shadows, and the pressure on the main body suddenly decreased. However, the doppelganger was not the main body. They began to block and even attack the sword shadows, and this immediately activated another attribute of the creation space. As long as they were attacked or blocked, the sword shadows would quickly split up. 1 became 2, 2 became 4, 4 became 8. Lien Zhan had just relaxed for a few seconds when he suddenly realized that the number of sword shadows around him was increasing crazily. In an instant, it had exceeded 100. This wasn't the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was that the larger the base, the more terrifying the growth of the sword shadows. In the blink of an eye, 100 became 200. This time, the space became lively. Hundreds of sword shadows crazily pierced through the doppelganger. Not good, I can't block it. When Lien Zhan realized this and quickly recalled his doppelganger, it was already too late. Thousands of sword shadows, like a sword dragon, crazily chased after Lien Zhan. Damn it, why are there so many? The speed is several times faster than before. Lien Zhan's eyes were about to split open. He quickly activated Soul Body as 1. Wind God Possession, Martial God, Astral Body, Phantom Perplexing Step, Starry Sky Leap. This Lien Zhan was quite strong. Facing thousands of sword shadows, he managed to hold on for more than 3 minutes. In 5 minutes and 38 seconds, thousands of sword shadows shot towards Lien Zhan from all directions. Lien Zhan's body was covered in wounds. His skills and spiritual power could no longer keep up. Damn it, I can't block it. Quick, let me out. Slash, 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 slash. Lien Zhan's eyes were filled with despair when the sword shadows around him suddenly disappeared. A strong suction force directly pulled him out of the creation space. Lien Zhan's body was covered in wounds. Fortunately, his physical injuries were not serious, so his life was not in danger. He knelt on the ground, panting heavily. When he turned back to look at the empty space, his eyes were filled with horror. It was really too terrifying just now. The feeling of facing the Grim Reaper was hard to erase from his mind. The first few minutes, he was sightseeing. But in the last 2 minutes, he had used all he had learned in his life. Not only that, but he had also used all his battle skills, and experience to the extreme. Senior brother, what happened? A few disciples of Heaven Pavilion Academy hurried over to help Lien Zhan up. Lien Zhan's eyes widened. My God, it's too scary. Really, I feel like I've gone through a baptism. Suddenly, Lien Zhan looked at Bai Yi. Does the demonic academy really use this method to cultivate? Bai Yi looked at him with disdain. Yes, can't we? What method we use to cultivate is none of your business. No, I'm not. What I mean is that, does your academy have an exchange program? Don't all the big academies have this kind of exchange program? No. Even if there is, it won't be your turn. Gray Crow said impatiently. You can't even last 6 minutes, and you want to come and farm spiritual stones? Let me tell you, 6 minutes is the minimum requirement for new recruits. Chapter 925. The Heavenly Pavilion Academy was one of the more famous academies, but their disciple couldn't even last 6 minutes. Oh my God, he can't even last 6 minutes? Can't anyone beat him in 6 minutes? Actually, his performance is already pretty good. Did you notice that in this space, you can't resist at the beginning? Dodging is the best option. Dodging is useless. It will generate sword shadows by itself. Later on, there will be more and more of them, and you can't keep dodging. Once you resist, you won't be far from being eliminated. However, the last 1 or 2 minutes are really a great inspiration for cultivation. Even a small mistake can lead to eternal damnation. The people from the Star Glory Academy widened their eyes. Their goal was to farm spiritual stones, but Lien Zhan couldn't even last 6 minutes. Yin Su frowned. I've fought with Lien Zhan before. His strength is not much lower than mine, but Lien Zhan's doppelganger was a failure. Without the doppelganger, he should have lasted 6 minutes. Senior brother Yin, let me try. A Star Glory disciple stepped forward and was the second to enter the creation space. This time, he utilized the valuable experience he had gained from Lien Zhan to the extreme. In the beginning, he used pure dodging. After 2 minutes, there were about 100 sword shadows. When it was difficult to dodge all of them, he tried to block as few sword shadows as possible with the least cost. But even so, after 5 minutes, the number of sword shadows suddenly increased. The speed was so fast that he couldn't care about tactics at all. Soul and body as one, profession astral form, and all kinds of enhancement skills were used. Under the pursuit of the sword shadows, he was defeated. 5 minutes and 27 seconds. No, I can't hold on anymore. Let me out. Just 3 seconds. The second person didn't even last 6 minutes. His result was even worse than Lien Zhan's. How can this be? I've already delayed for a long time before I counterattacked. That person was confused. Yin Su suddenly said, I understand. Lien Zhan's doppelganger caused the sword shadows to double, but we neglected the fact that the doppelganger also shared most of the sword shadows. This is a double-edged sword. It's not necessarily better to not use the doppelganger. If you can control the doppelganger and not let them fight back, you might be able to last 6 minutes. But he listened to their serious analysis and said with disdain, You're here to mess things up? I can even hold on for 5 minutes in a space stronger than this. What? There's a space even stronger than this. Someone with sharp ears suddenly exclaimed after hearing Bai Yi's whisper. This discovery immediately caused an uproar. It can't be. Is there a space stronger than this in the Demonic Academy? In other words, they will constantly use a stronger space to train their disciples according to their strength. My God, then I won't have to worry about my future cultivation. The disciples of the Demonic Academy are so lucky. They can use such a strong training method every day. You're jealous. 10 million is really not expensive. Damn it, I've decided. I must gather 10 million in 3 days. I want to enter the Demonic Academy. Yin Su and the others came up with another strategy. Someone immediately volunteered. Senior brother, let me do it this time. Let me do it. Let me try this new tactic. If I succeed, you guys can go. Let me do it. You know that I'm good at using clones. I'm a senior brother. If I say I'll do it, I'll do it. Senior brother, if you say so, then it's not appropriate. Senior brother, you didn't fight to go. Gray Crow opened his mouth and looked at these people who came to mess things up in shock. Are you kidding me? He was more serious than anyone when he analyzed how to break through. Now, they're fighting to break through the space. Senior brother and junior brother almost fell out with each other. Aren't they here to mess things up? Why did things turn out like this? Speaking of which, when the dean is done resting, should he make a space for himself? The third person was Glorious Star's second senior brother. He used the strategy that everyone discussed and lasted for 5 minutes and 56 seconds. After coming out, the group cheered. Just a little bit more. What a pity. Just a little bit more, and it would have been 6 minutes. That person imparted his experience and said, This time my clones shared a lot of the sword shadows. But later on, I encountered a problem. First, the clones did share the sword shadows. But later on, the sword shadows were extremely fast. Their attacks were tricky and didn't stop for a moment. Then, I couldn't control the clones, which led to the sword shadows increasing rapidly. Another problem is that after 5 minutes and 30 seconds, the sword shadows attacks became several times sharper than before. That is a watershed. Next, You guys must pay attention to this timing. Oh, so it's like this. I was wondering why after 5 minutes and 30 seconds, Senior Brother and Lian Zhan were defeated so quickly. 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Remember, Senior Brother Yin, there are still 2 spots left. Let me go. You guys can't go alone. We have people here too. That's right. Let's at least share a chance. What are you guys arguing about? Don't you know your own strength? Even though Glorious Star is strong, I haven't seen you guys last for more than 6 minutes. What did you say? Seeing that they were arguing, Black Armor King hurried forward. Stop arguing. If you want to fight, don't fight here. Gray Crow felt as if he was living in a dream. Why were these people fighting? They had to be responsible for stopping the fight. After some discussion, they decided to send someone from another school. That person was not as strong as Lian Zhan and could only last for 5 minutes. Out of the 5 spots, there was only 1 left. This spot was reserved for Yin Su, and the others had no objections. With everyone's experience, Yin Su walked into the creation space under their expectant gazes. At first, he tried to dodge as much as possible. After that, he chose not to use his doppelgangers and used his original body to dodge quickly. 5 minutes and 30 seconds. The speed and attack of the sword shadows increased exponentially. At this time, there were hundreds of them. At this time, Yin Su activated Soul Body as one and used all kinds of enhancement skills to dodge crazily. 6 minutes and 8 seconds, 6 minutes and 11 seconds, 6 minutes and 15 seconds. At this time, the speed of the sword shadows splitting was very fast. With every second, the danger increased by several times. Everyone held their breaths. As expected of a disciple of Glorious Star Academy, Yin Su has only been in the academy for 3 years. His abilities are far stronger than the others. Yin Su is also the focus of Glorious Star's training. It's already been 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Can he last more than 7 minutes? Yin Su was hit many times, but he still persisted. 6 minutes and 53 seconds. Yin Su finally could not withstand the sword shadows. I can't hold on anymore. I have to go out. In the end, Yin Su broke the record with a time of 6 minutes and 53 seconds. When he came out, everyone rushed forward. Senior is indeed our senior. He's too strong. The sword shadows behind him are too scary. 6 minutes and 53 seconds. 7 minutes to go. Senior is so strong. Yin Su let out a long sigh of relief. This training has really benefited me a lot, but it's also thanks to the experience that you guys have gained. Otherwise, I'm afraid I could only last for 6 minutes by myself. Black Armor King frowned and looked at Gray Crow with a puzzled expression. He saw that Gray Crow's mouth was still open. It seemed that his senior was as confused as he was. Did these people forget one thing? They were here to cause trouble. He really wanted to remind these people that they were so happy after 6 minutes. Did they forget that their goal was 10 minutes? Chapter 9:26. The testing area was in a mess. Many people were asking if the Demonic Academy would come tomorrow, while the people from other academies were asking if the Demonic Academy had any spots for exchange students. No one mentioned the matter of collecting spirit stones anymore. Facing the crazy crowd, Bai Yi and the others were a little overwhelmed. At this moment, a voice came from behind. Old C, that's all for today. Let's go back. Everyone looked over and saw a man with a broken arm standing up with the help of a woman in purple. He raised his hand gently, and the testing space disappeared. Is that the dean of the Demonic Academy? He's a human, and he looks so young. Is his body injured? I saw his badge just now. How come he's only a 1-star great cultivator? You must be mistaken. The disciples of the Demonic Academy are at least 5-star earth cultivators. How can the dean only be a great cultivator? A sea of clouds, and the others hurriedly followed. Dean, are we not going to accept the things? No need. I've rented this place for a month, and the other academies didn't accept it either. No one will take it. Let's go back. I'm hungry. After returning to the Demonic Academy, Lu Yi made a few simple dishes. There were 5 teachers and students in the academy, plus Xiao, Min, and Little Green, making a total of 7 people. After the meal, the youngest Black Armor King was called to wash the dishes. After returning, everyone sat in the training field and chatted leisurely. Dean, it's a pity that we didn't recruit anyone today. Isn't the 6-minute requirement too high for newcomers? Bai said, the disciples who came for the test have been in the academy for a few years, and only Yin Su passed the 6-minute mark. Yes, Dean, I understand that you want to find those genius disciples, but no matter which academy it is, it's impossible for all of them to be geniuses, a sea of clouds said. Our requirement is actually much higher than that of the sacred institution. Luchan shook his head and looked at the stars in the sky. There are countless prosperous source continents in the 6th heaven, and our current location can only be considered a corner of the prosperous source continent. Luchan looked at the others. This is only the first day. Actually, we've already exceeded our target today. Didn't I recruit the 3 of you? As for the others, I believe that a terrifying heaven domain like the 6th heaven will not disappoint me. To Luchan, the 6th celestial layer was indeed the most terrifying. He had been unlucky all the way until now. By the way, Old Hai, what exactly is it in the holy courtyard of Wunyan that causes you to get worse year after year? Luchan suddenly asked. At the mention of this question, the others all lowered their heads, as if they were thinking of the Wunyan Academy of the past. A sea of clouds looked at Luchan in surprise. Dean, there are some things that should be said in private. Luchan suddenly understood. Other than him and a sea of clouds, there were only 3 disciples here. It was not convenient to talk about it now, which meant that Grey Crow and the others did not know much about that thing. Even the holy courtyard of Wunyan might have hidden something from the disciples in the past. Luchan thought for a moment and said, we're all on the same side, so there's no harm in saying it. I'll bear the consequences. A sea of clouds looked at Bai and the others. These 3 disciples were loyal to the holy courtyard of Wunyan, so they indeed had the right to know about that matter. With a long sigh, a sea of clouds said, actually about 300 years ago, the spirit veins of the academy suddenly changed. After that thing appeared, it needed to absorb a lot of spirit energy. Absorb spirit energy? Luchan frowned. A sea of clouds was not surprised by Luchan's reaction and continued. The reason why so many people fight for the location of the academy is not because of these buildings. These buildings can be built as many as they want. The most important thing is that each academy has its own spirit veins. In other words, when the academy was built, it was built according to the location of the spirit veins. The strength of the spirit veins of the holy courtyard of Wunyan has always been ranked in the top 3 of the Xinyuan continent. However, since more than 300 years ago, the spirit energy emitted by the spirit veins has weakened. Not only that, as long as the cultivation speed of the student slows down, there will even be a phenomenon of level regression. He asked curiously, Uncle, can our broken spirit veins be ranked in the top 3 of the Xinyuan continent? When I came to the holy courtyard of Wunyan in the past, I remember that the academy always talked about the strength of the teachers and the inheritance of the academy. They did not say that we have a strong spirit vein. Also, level regression? How come we don't know about it? A sea of clouds said, you don't know about these things either. Listen to me first. The former dean told me that there is something lurking in the academy. It is quietly stealing the spirit veins and the spirit energy of the students. When this incident first happened, many of the students showed signs of level regression. A sea of clouds continued. Logically speaking, after the spirit core breaks through, our cultivation level will increase. However, if the spirit core is empty and there is something absorbing the spirit energy of the spirit core at this time, then it will cause the consolidated spirit core to weaken, and regress. There will be a level regression. However, under normal circumstances, to cause a level regression, it requires an extremely terrifying power. This is a subversive spirit core reversal. Other than the holy courtyard of Wunyan, I have never heard of such a situation happening anywhere else. Luchan frowned. That was to say, that thing was very strong, People from Zhongshingu also came to take a look, but they only sealed our backyard and provided a few temporary spirit sources to disguise as new spirit veins. After the seal, the student's level will no longer regress. However, for some reason, the effect of the new spirit sources is far lower than expected. The student's cultivation speed is still seriously affected. For a long time, the holy courtyard of Wunyan, which was originally very strong, became weaker year by year. We thought of many ways to find more spirit sources to supplement the artificial spirit veins. The teachers taught the students more wholeheartedly. In the beginning, the situation of the holy courtyard of Wunyan could barely be maintained, but in recent years, that thing seems to be getting more and more restless. Our artificial spirit veins can't support it anymore. The student's cultivation progress is getting slower and slower. After saying that, a sea of clouds looked at by Gray Crow, and Black Armor King. Children, in fact, you are unlucky. Otherwise, with your talent, if you were in the previous holy courtyard of Wunyan, your level would be at least 2 levels higher than it is now. The ones who were the most affected were not Lu Chun, but Gray Crow and the other two. The three of them were silent. It was also the first time they heard about the secret past of the holy courtyard of Wunyan. After being in the holy courtyard of Wunyan for decades, they knew that there was something strange in the holy courtyard of Wunyan that hindered cultivation, but only now did they know that the thing was actually so strong. Even the people from Zhongshingu couldn't do anything about it. The holy courtyard of Wunyan had one of the top 3 spirit veins in Shengyuan continent, and they had been using artificial spirit veins all this time. After a long time, Gray Crow raised his head. Uncle, actually, we also know some things, but we didn't expect it to be so serious. Black Armor King sighed. If we don't solve this problem, it's useless no matter how many new people we recruit. A sea of clouds looked at the 3 of them in surprise. After hearing this, don't you want to leave the demonic academy? Bai smiled and shook her head. Uncle, we can understand why the academy hid this from us. Besides, we have been in the academy for so long. How could we not know anything about it? In the past, there were various versions of rumors in the academy, but we didn't expect the actual situation to be more terrible than those exaggerated rumors. Since we have already heard about it, but we're still willing to stay, it means that we are already mentally prepared. This time, we must take back the holy courtyard of Wunyan. No, the demonic academy's spirit veins. Lu Chan looked at the 3 of them with a smile. He had to admit that he liked these 3 little guys more and more. Chapter 927. Lu Chun inquired about the location of the main spirit vein. The spirit vein of Wunyan Academy was in the backyard and had long been sealed. This time when Wunyan closed down, that area would be the last to be unsealed. Old C, can the artificial spirit vein still be used? Well, the artificial spirit vein was already very weak before, but the academy has been sealed for half a year, so it should have gathered a lot of spirit energy. In addition, there are very few disciples in the early stage, so it should be able to hold on for a while. A sea of clouds pondered and said, I just hope that thing won't wake up with us. That thing is sleeping now. Lu Chen asked, since there's no one here, the artificial spirit vein has been sealed, and it hasn't moved much. Lu Chen nodded. This was good news. Old C, where do we get the spirit source? If we unseal the artificial spirit vein, we need a lot of spirit source to support it. There are several ways. One is to go to the major demon areas, such as the ominous demon sea, hunt monsters, and take the spirit pills and refine them with the refining array. I can arrange the refining array, but the key is to have a strong enough demon spirit pill. Another way is that after the academy's ranking, Zhongshingu will give some magic weapons. Those things will last longer as a spirit source. Lu Chen nodded. It would be easy to get a new spirit source. Well, in that case, let's open the academy first in the new stage. Unseal the scripture pavilion, the tool pavilion, the cultivation room, and so on. As for the things that absorb spirit energy, you don't have to think about it. I'll find a way to deal with it. But he suddenly said, Dean, during today's enrollment, they all want to go to the creation space to cultivate. Should we also arrange a few in the academy? When the newcomers come, they won't be idle. Lucha nodded. I also thought of it, but I need to improve it. Otherwise, I have to open and close it myself every time, and I can't split myself. It's getting late. Everyone has been busy all day. Let's go back and rest today. Yes, Dean. Bai Yi, you stay. Bai Yi was a little surprised, but she still stayed. On the martial arts field, only Lu Chun and Bai Yi were left. Dean, why did you ask me to stay? You're a talisman master, and I'm not good at talisman techniques, so I want to ask if you can use a talisman paper to store a certain process of my spiritual power control. Lu Chun said. He knew that there were some talisman techniques that could be used as skills. Since it was a skill, it meant that the talisman paper stored a whole set of spiritual power flow processes. Dean, you want to use the talisman paper to control the creation space? But he was also very smart and immediately understood Lu Chen's idea. If it's opened, I don't think the talisman paper can do it. The main thing is to control the creation space to return to its initial state. If I can do this, as long as I open the space there, I won't need to guard it at all times. Dean, it's completely possible. However, he had to test the grade of talisman paper first. The talisman paper has a total of 4 major levels: heaven, earth, black, and yellow. Each level has 9 minor levels. With the complexity and strength of the Dean's technique, I estimate that the black level talisman paper should be able to record the changes in his spiritual energy. Let's try the level 5 black level talisman paper first. All right. Not long after, Bai Yi was sweating profusely. The level 5 black level talisman paper could not record the process of Lu Chen's spiritual power control. The Dean controls it very easily. It should not have any attack power, but why is it so complicated? You need to use spiritual energy. Lu Chen reminded her. Spiritual energy? Bai Yi's eyes widened. I don't know what talisman paper to use. Then, let's try the earth level. The earth level talisman paper finally recorded the process of restoring the creation space. A simple restoration actually needs the earth level talisman paper. Then if it's opened, I'm afraid it needs a higher level talisman paper. Bai Yi couldn't help shaking her head. Lu Chen also breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't care what level of talisman paper his skill needed. Anyway, with this talisman paper, in the future, when others tested, the disciples could use the talisman paper to control the creation space. How much is the earth-level talisman paper? The talisman paper is not expensive, only tens of thousands of spirit stones. And I have more than 100 on me. These will be reimbursed by the academy. We will make a few more sets. Tomorrow, you will be the main control. I will watch from the side for a few days, and then I will hand it over to you. Lu Chan was busy making talismans, and many of the surrounding academies, the departments in charge of enrollment, were holding emergency meetings. The number of interested newcomers recruited today was pitifully small. You said that all the newcomers today went to the demonic academy? They created a special space to attract all the newcomers? This demonic academy has just been established not long ago, but there are quite a lot of tricks. Don't they know that the demonic academy has just been established? And 10 million in tuition fees. What a joke. Master, those newcomers don't care about this at all. As long as they pass the test, they are all sharpening their brains to enter the demonic academy. That special space is so magical. Even glorious stars, Yin Su, only lasted for 6 minutes? Senior brother, Yin Su only lasted for 6 minutes. Originally, we wanted to hold on for 10 minutes and let them bleed, but who knew that the space was so difficult? That's because you're incompetent. I'll go over tomorrow to take a look. The newly established academy is already riding on our heads. If the sect leader knows about our enrollment today, even Master will be scolded. Yes, senior brother, in a remote inn. Although it was remote, almost all the residents were staying there. Many newcomers who had not yet joined the academy would choose to stay in such a cheap inn for the time being. Have you heard about the demonic academy? If you can last for 10 minutes, the reward is 10 million. With this money, you won't have to worry about tuition fees. Of course I've heard, but it's almost impossible to earn 10 million. It said that no newcomer can last for more than 6 minutes. They can't even meet the admission requirements of the Demonic Academy. So how can they earn spirit stones? It seems that even the senior disciples of the Glorious Star Academy only lasted for less than 7 minutes. As long as people come out from there, they say that they have benefited a lot. I'm really curious what kind of training method it is. I want to go to that area tomorrow to take a look. At this time, a young man sitting in the corner stood up and walked to their table. "Friends, can I sit here?" Those people sized up the young man. He was a human and had a calm temperament. His clothes were exquisite, and he was quite handsome and had an extraordinary bearing. The badge on his chest was surrounded by spiritual energy, and it was impossible to see his level. "Sure, you're all newcomers." Those dwarves laughed. After that person sat down, he ordered a few pots of wine and shared it with these people. "My surname is Shao. Thank you for not disliking me. To be honest, I'm also worried about which academy to join. Today, I heard many people talking about the Demonic Academy. I don't know what happened that made so many people so interested in this academy. Brother Xiao Zhan is also a straightforward person. Why don't you know about the special space of the Demonic Academy? Let's tell you." Chapter 928. The next day, Lu Chun brought the people of the Demonic Academy to the recruitment area. From afar, he could see that the recruitment area of the Demonic Academy was full of people. Why are there so many people? Lu Chun was a bit surprised. The number of people here was several times more than usual. Maybe the news has spread. A sea of clouds said, many newcomers will stay in cheaper inns, and they will exchange information with each other. Although Lu Chun was also a newcomer, his experience was different from others. Others could find a remote inn where newcomers gathered, but he was too far away and stayed on a deserted island for a month. There's such a place. Lu Chun shook his head. Forget it. He couldn't be a newcomer now anyway. With the control talisman, the testing could be handed over to Bai, Yi, and the others. Lu Chun only needed to watch a little. Soon, the testing would begin. Line up. Newcomers who are confident that they can take more than 6 minutes and intend to enter the Demonic Academy, come to me to register first. The space is our Demonic Academy's testing program. We will arrange for such people to take the test first. Black Armor King shouted from the side. There were too many people, and Bai only made more than 100 control talismans. It was impossible for everyone to have a chance to take the test. Naturally, they would choose those who were likely to enter the academy first. Soon, a large group of people rushed to Black Armor King's door. "Senior brother, can you pay your tuition fee in batches?" "Senior brother, I just heard that your training program is very magical. Can you give it a try before deciding whether to join the Demonic Academy?" "Senior brother, is the requirement still 6 minutes? I want to join your academy, but this requirement is too difficult." Even the senior disciples of Starlight couldn't handle it. As soon as they arrived, Black Armor King was a bit overwhelmed. Gray Crow hurried to help. Even a sea of clouds couldn't sit still and ran to the front to preside over the situation. Lu Chun sat in the booth, drinking nourishing tea. He narrowed his eyes slightly and observed these newcomers. He didn't know if he could recruit a satisfactory student today. The scene in the testing area was a bit chaotic. There were too few people in the Demonic Academy. Facing thousands of questions, the three heroes were almost drowned in the sea of people. At this moment, a sea of clouds suddenly shouted, "Shut up!" As he spoke, a sea of clouds burst out with a burst of strong spiritual energy, instantly suppressing the audience. Is that Senior A Sea of Clouds? It's him. He was originally the dean of the Wu Nian Academy. Later, he joined the Demonic Academy and became a mentor. When I inquired about the Demonic Academy before, those old foundations would mention him. Dean Thoughtless, a mentor who's willing to become a god fiend. What's the background of this Demonic Academy? Seeing that the people around him had quieted down, a sea of clouds said, "I can understand your feelings, but nothing can be accomplished without rules. As you can see, there are many people here, so we still need to maintain order. Regardless of whether it is a consultation or a test, please line up properly. In addition, let's not waste time. Let the testing space start running first." Let me ask first, is there anyone who is confident that they can exceed 6 minutes? Whether you want to become a god fiend or not, and whether you have enough tuition fees. If you have, you can come to me first. After all, a sea of clouds was the old dean. As long as the creation space started running, he could provide a reference for those who hadn't seen the power of the creation space before. At the same time, it would attract a large number of people. Naturally, the pressure on the three heroes would be reduced a lot. I want to give it a try. In the crowd, a middle-aged man who looked like a human walked out and clasped his hands to a sea of clouds. Greetings, Senior A Sea of Clouds. I'm one-star Emperor Shio, and I've fought countless battles before. May I have the courage to give it a try? However, whether I want to join the Demonic Academy or not, I want to give it a try first before deciding. A Sea of Clouds smiled slightly. This man was tall and straight, and had an extraordinary bearing. Moreover, his strength was very rare among the newcomers. It was no exaggeration to say that any sacred academy would fight to recruit him. Although he wasn't young, on the path of cultivation, there wasn't much difference between a few decades and a teenager. This man's attitude was modest. This kind of person often hid his strength. A Sea of Clouds smiled and said, "The reason why you didn't line up is probably because you're not sure whether you want to join the Demonic Academy or not. It doesn't matter. Just now, my request didn't say that you must join the Demonic Academy. Today, you'll be the first to pass the test." "Thank you, Senior A Sea of Clouds." In the distance, Liu Chen also noticed this man. One-star Emperor Xiao. If he was in the fifth heaven where I was, he would be equivalent to the level of the ancient god of war. However, Liu Chen didn't know how his actual combat ability was. He was also looking forward to his performance. When this man entered the creation space, as expected, many people's attention was diverted and they began to watch him pass the test. As soon as this man entered the space, he displayed an extraordinary ability to adapt. When facing the first sword shadow, he didn't seem to know in advance that there would be a knock on the door. He raised a long spear in his hand and blocked it. Then, when he saw the sword shadow quickly split up, he immediately changed his tactics and only dodged. Liu Chen nodded slightly. This man's on-the-spot reaction and judgment were all top-notch. He said that he had experienced countless battles, so it should be true. As the saying goes, once an expert makes a move, the truth will be revealed. A Sea of Clouds' eyes also began to shine. 3 minutes and 30 seconds. At this time, he activated soul-body unification and continued to dodge the sword shadows quickly. It's been more than 3 minutes, and he can still dodge the sword shadows' attacks. This guy is so strong. His speed is so fast. For minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes and 30 seconds at this time, the number of sword shadows had reached hundreds, and their speed had increased sharply. The sword shadows stabbed from all directions. Even though this man's body technique was quite exquisite, his body was already scratched in many places. His expression finally began to become serious. This small space is actually so magical. The sword shadow's attacks are endless. Damn it, I was careless. At this time, he could no longer use displacement to completely avoid the attacks. He had to start using skills to block and resist. As a result, the sword shadows grew faster all of a sudden. The intensity of these 20 seconds was even higher than the previous 5 minutes combined. Search Dragon Burrow. The man left an afterimage on the spot, and his figure shot straight to the ground from midair. But at this time, a large number of sword shadows suddenly condensed from the ground and shot toward him. Is there really no place to hide? Killing Luo sect. 4 rock layers and earth walls were suddenly erected around him, blocking a large number of sword shadows. However, within the killing Rakshasa sect, more sword shadows were rapidly forming. Damn it, these sword shadows are really everywhere. 3,000 worlds. Then his figure directly disappeared on the spot. Oh my god, what skill is this? Teleportation or displacement? How can he disappear into thin air? People looked at the space in surprise. With his skill, wouldn't he pass the test? However, the thousands of sword shadows didn't stop. They began to madly attack a certain point in the space. Just 10 seconds later, a figure seemed to jump out from the void and suddenly flashed out from another place. After flashing out, he spat out a large mouthful of blood. When he wanted to stand up, his legs went soft, and he couldn't stand up. He can actually find my position. How is this possible? I just reached the 6th layer of heaven, and I already encountered a space that even I can't deal with. This time, facing thousands of sword shadows, a hint of anger flashed through his eyes. Should he use that move? In the end, he still gave up. I give up. The thousands of sword shadows suddenly disappeared. That person walked out of the space, trembling. 7 minutes, 22 seconds. Oh my God. His result is even higher than Yin Su's. This guy is definitely a top-level genius. He really is strong. In the first 5 minutes, I almost thought that he would last for 10 minutes. I wonder if Immortal Academy will want this kind of person. That person walked out of the testing area, turned around, and looked at the testing area that had returned to normal. He took a deep breath. Young man, you really didn't disappoint me. 7 minutes, 22 seconds is already the best result so far, said a sea of clouds with a smile. I wonder if you are now willing to join our demonic academy? Chapter 9:29. That person raised his head. Senior A Sea of Clouds, may I ask, is there really a place with a higher intensity than this testing space in your esteemed academy? Yes, a Sea of Clouds said with certainty. That person nodded solemnly and pondered for a long time. The Demonic Academy, a newly established academy with weak spirit veins, and only a few of you are in the academy? That's right. Is the dean of your esteemed academy really only a 1-star great cultivator? And a broken art at that? A Sea of Clouds paused. This guy seemed to have investigated the Demonic Academy. His questions were getting sharper and sharper, and he even asked about the dean's situation in the end. How should he answer this question? If he told the truth, he was afraid that many newcomers who wanted to join the Demonic Academy would give up. He didn't doubt Lu Chen's strength, but the dean's level was really too low. In the entire 6th heaven, it was difficult to find anyone below the Earth cultivator level, and he had just barely reached the level of a great cultivator. This guy was a first-timer, and he would have a great impact on those who would follow. After thinking about it, a Sea of Clouds finally decided to tell the truth. That's right. A hint of disappointment flashed in that person's eyes, and then he said, "This junior's question is a bit abrupt, but the 6th heaven is a holy land for cultivation, and which academy to join is very important to us." A Sea of Clouds wasn't angry at all, and smiled slightly. To be able to take this matter so seriously, it shows that you are not someone who is willing to be ordinary. It doesn't matter whether you choose to join the Demonic Academy or not. I believe that you will definitely shine in the 6th heaven in the future. That person looked at a Sea of Clouds in surprise. To be honest, cultivation resources and spirit veins were important, but to him, they didn't play a decisive role. Instead, he was most concerned about the mentor's character and strength. There didn't seem to be many people who had the ability to teach him. It was true that the testing space was mysterious, but he could not rule out the possibility that the principal had obtained some kind of fortuitous encounter and obtained a powerful artifact. He did not believe that a 1-star great cultivator could teach him well. Suddenly, the man looked up at a Sea of Clouds. If I may be so bold as to ask, Senior A Sea of Clouds, why are you willing to be a teacher in the Demonic Academy? Is it because you can't forget the Academy of Wunyan? Many people could not help but look at a Sea of Clouds. The rumors in the room said that a Sea of Clouds was reluctant to part with Intentionless Academy, but no one had ever heard a Sea of Clouds say this personally. A Sea of Clouds was stunned for a moment, then smiled. Young man, you're wrong. Was that not the case? With the level of Senior A Sea of Clouds, you're many times stronger than the principal of the Demonic Academy. A Sea of Clouds laughed. I know that you look down on the principal and think that he's just opportunistic. But what I want to tell you is that the principal of the Demonic Academy is the person I admire the most. You all know that he has a broken arm and his physical body is permanently damaged, but you don't know that his body is many times weaker than you think. He has an old illness and needs to take medicine every day. Perhaps even he himself doesn't know that every time he fights, he'll be so tired that he'll be covered in sweat and his face will be pale. However, it was such a person who came to me a week before the battle for the old site of the Academy of Wunyan and told me that he would take the old site of the Academy of Wunyan. At that time, I thought I was drunk. Ha ha. A crippled one-star great cultivator said that he would take the old site of the Academy of Wunyan. If it were you, you wouldn't believe it either. However, a week later, he really relied on his own strength to take the old site from the hands of the 20 great academies, including the 2 top 10 sacred academies in Xinyuan continent, Numinous Sky, and North Pole. He forcibly took the old site of the Academy of Wunyan. From then on, I decided to follow him. The Divine Magic Academy is indeed very weak right now, and many places are even sealed, but you have to think clearly about what kind of principle there is, what kind of academy there is, and what kind of academy there is, what kind of disciple there is. If you want to go against the heavens, come to our demonic academy. A sea of clouds' chicken soup for the soul made the blood of many newcomers boil. Lu Chun, who was at the back, almost spat out the medicine in his mouth. As expected of the old principal, he was also good at mobilizing people. He really wanted to tell everyone loudly that he was only here to look for treasure. Maybe if he found the treasure, he would give the principal to someone else and run away himself. If he was placed so high up now, how would he run away in the future? Damn it, old C, if you want to recruit people, then recruit people. You, what are you doing? Lu Yi looked at Lu Chen's lifeless face and couldn't help but snicker. Boss, how did being weak and sickly become your advantage? Lu Chun shook his head. In the past, he was a weak jackalen, and it wasn't easy for him to break into the 6th heaven. Now, he was a weak principal. On the other side, the challenger cupped his fists and said to a sea of clouds, "This junior understands. I'm Chu Tian, and I'm willing to join the demonic academy. But can the tuition fee be delayed for 2 days? 10 million is really not a small amount. I still want to borrow." Upon hearing that someone wanted to borrow money, the Black Armor King immediately ran over. "Isn't it just spirit stones?" "Come, I have some here. How much do you need?" 6 million. The cost of the 6th heaven is too high. 10 million. You need 9. 6 million. Are you trying to empty my pockets? Why are the geniuses so miserable? Sigh. It seems that I'm not a genius. It's because I'm too rich. The Black Armor King was also speechless. This 10% interest, I'll help you pay 9. 6 million, how about that? Compound interest, I'm not that greedy. It's just simple interest. I can pay you back the principal first. That person hesitated for a moment and said, "Okay, I'm Chu Tian. Thank you, senior brother. Junior brother Chu Tian, let's go. I'll bring you to register." Lu Chun immediately sat up. Today was a good start. The first person to take the test was going to join the Demonic Academy. Although there were only 4 of them, all 4 of them were very powerful. If it was beneficial to the recruitment of students, then it was not impossible to spread the story of him being weak and sickly, which was a touching and inspirational story. Chu Tian immediately paid the tuition fee. After all, most of the money didn't belong to him. Then, the Black Armor King brought him to Lu Chun. "Brother Chu, this is our principal." Chu Tian looked at Lu Chun. This was the 1-star cultivator that even a sea of clouds highly praised. Sure enough, he looked very weak. "Greetings to the principal." Lu Chun stood up and nodded to Chu Tian. "Your performance just now was very good." Chu Tian suddenly asked, "Principal, may I ask, how can one survive for more than 10 minutes in this space? If your goal is to survive for a bit longer, then you need to resist for the last few minutes." Lu Chun directly replied, "Resist?" Chu Tian suddenly froze. "Yes, even if you can completely avoid it, after 7 or 8 minutes, the sword shadows in this space will make it impossible for you to escape. At that time, you need to resist the sword shadows." What the principal said is true, but can anyone withstand such a fierce attack? At this moment, there was a sudden commotion in the testing area. When Chu Tian was doing all kinds of procedures, the test over there didn't stop. The previous few people's results were average, about 4 or 5 minutes. But now, this person's result had broken Chu Tian's record. Lu Chen smiled and said to Chu Tian, "Let's see that person's performance first." Chapter 9:30. At this time, in the space, a young man's red spiritual power suddenly burst out, his long hair flying, his eyes blood red. This guy's spiritual power is so strong. What level is he? He specializes in fire attribute elements. But is he going to resist? There are too many sword shadows. It's useless to dodge at this time. He must resist. The key is to see how long he can resist. It's almost 8 minutes now. The people watching the test have been nervous. Can this guy create a miracle? The result of resisting the sword shadows is that the growth rate of the sword shadows will increase exponentially. Raging flame burst. True burning fire. With a boom, the whole space was suddenly filled with terrifying waves of fire. On this side, Bai suddenly opened her eyes. Damn, this kid's spiritual power is so strong. The array can't hold him anymore. Outside the creation space, there is another layer of array, which is Bai Yi's responsibility. Before, the dean said that there is no need for a powerful array outside the creation space. He will control the space to not expand outwards. But now it seems that the kid in the space is too abnormal. Just in case, the creation space can't instantly digest his eruption of spiritual energy. Bai Yi directly opened the soul-body fusion to stabilize the array. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. If Chu Tian was a 1 in 100 genius, then that brat in the array was 1 in 10,000. This guy's fire attribute spiritual energy is too overbearing. Of course, Lu Chen didn't know that Chu Tian still had a trick up his sleeve. At the last moment, this kid directly gave up, trying to reach the 10 minutes mark. On the side, Chu Tian slightly narrowed his eyes. The kid in the space is really strong. If the two fight, I'm afraid it will be an unprecedented, fierce battle. So this is what the dean said. The best defense is to attack. The dean hopes that he can join the demonic academy. Chu Tian suddenly said. And Lu Chen was a little surprised. If I can compare notes with this kind of fellow apprentice, I'm afraid the effect will not lose to the training in the special space. Lu Chen can understand this feeling. He also longed to meet a strong person, but along the way, his friends have been desperately trying to catch up, but the pursuit is getting farther and farther away. These newcomers are worthy of being geniuses. Each and every one of them is proud and arrogant. From a longing in Chu Tian's eyes, Lu Chen had a feeling that Chu Tian was not weak at all. In the end, the person who took the test lasted for 9 minutes and 17 seconds. The fierce fire elemental attack indeed lasted for a moment, but what followed was an unimaginable number of sword shadows that intertwined with the flames, filling the entire space. After coming out of the space, the man was panting heavily. His whole body was drenched in sweat and blood. This space is indeed extremely mysterious. Senior sister, I want to join your demonic academy. But he finally breathed a sigh of relief. First of all, this kid didn't destroy the safety array. Second of all, such a rare genius was going to join the demonic academy without hesitation. At this moment, a few people squeezed through the crowd and walked up to that person. Brother Xiao, are you really going to join the demonic academy? Immortal Academy's invitation letter has already arrived. That's right, old Xiao. Didn't we agree to make a name for ourselves in the sixth heaven? Xiao Zhan, don't you already know about the demonic academy situation? It can be said that apart from this training space, there is nothing good about it. But he was not happy after hearing this. Hey kid, what are you talking about? What do you mean by nothing good? The person who came was Xiao Zhan. As soon as he came to the sixth heaven, some immortal academies were already trying to snatch him away. Xiao Zhan cupped his fists and apologized to Bai Yi. Senior sister, please don't blame them. My friends are just outspoken. Hey, old Gio, from now on, I am a member of the Demonic Academy. Who are you looking down on? Old Xiaoyu. You have been smart all your life, but why are you so stupid now? How can the resources of a mortal academy be compared to a small lower academy? Their president is only a one-star great cultivator. You're fighting those above your level every day. How can you be willing to enter such an academy? Xiaozhan shook his head and smiled. Old Gio, do you know what this space is? How would I know? Is it a magical treasure skill? No, this is a status skill. This is a status skill. Old Gio's eyes widened. Xiaozhan nodded and said, in the sixth heaven, it is not strange for someone to grasp a status skill. However, it is from a one-star great cultivator. If the president was a human king, I wouldn't care. However, a one-star great cultivator can comprehend a status skill. Just based on this point, I think he must be outstanding. You guys don't talk about a mortal academy all day long. Xiaozhan said earnestly. Didn't we also walk from the bottom to the top? The Demonic Academy is now in its early stages. It is the best time for us to show our great ambitions. Immortal Academy, Sacred Academy, and Lower Academy, in my eyes, there is no difference. Xiaozhan was indeed Xiaozhan. He was so confident. Those people and Xiaozhan have been through life and death situations together. After hearing Xiaozhan's bold words, they were finally sure that this kid did not enter the Demonic God Academy on a whim. Boss is right. Among the five of us, Startled Lion, will also try this legendary status skill. Old Xiao, wait for me. Although I can't last 9 minutes, I can still pass 6 minutes. All right. I really admire you guys. Startled Lion, hurry up. Once you finish, I will do it. Xiaozhan's friends were also quite strong. As expected, they all lasted 6 to 7 minutes. After passing the test, the 5 of them went to the recruitment area under the lead of the Black Armor King. Greetings, senior brother Chu Tian. Xiaozhan greeted Chu Tian. Chu Tian returned greeting. Calling me senior brother makes me feel ashamed. I'm just a step early. Congratulations to junior brothers and sisters for passing the test. From now on, we are all on the same side. One of Chu Tian's strengths was that although he was arrogant, he was humble and courteous. He was indeed very suitable to be a senior brother. A step early is still early. In the future, I hope senior brother can teach me more. You flatter me. However, from now on, we are all from the same sect. I also look forward to learning from brother Xiaozhan. Come, greet the dean first. After that, Xiaozhan carefully looked at Lu Chun. As expected, he only had one arm. He didn't look very energetic. The Starfield Grand Cultivator on his chest was very eye-catching. Greetings, Dean. Lu Chun nodded in satisfaction. Your performance was very good. Come in and rest. Dean, we are not tired. The Demonic Academy is lacking manpower right now. We're going to help our senior brothers and sisters maintain order. Xiaozhan said. For a genius like Xiaozhan, adapting to a new environment was very easy. They immediately integrated into the Demonic Academy's environment. Chu Tian suddenly asked, Dean, this disciple has something he doesn't understand. And what is it? Dean, junior brother Zhao's strength is shocking. I believe that such an expert will appear in the future. A mountain cannot hold 2 tigers. When the time comes, there will be a lot of fighting. Lu Chun smiled. What about you? Do you normally go find trouble with Xiaozhan? Dean, Chu Tian won't. Chu Tian said indifferently. I only want to become stronger. Since I have entered the Demonic Academy, in my eyes, I am one of them. If anyone dares to provoke junior brother Xiao outside, I will help them get back their face. Lu Chun smiled. In my opinion, a genius with real strength is actually very low-key. Even if they are confident, they don't like to take the initiative to bully others. It's just that many times, others don't understand and only think that geniuses are arrogant. Chu Tian was stunned. The dean had simply spoken his mind. The only one who knows me is the dean. Moreover, don't you still have me in the academy? This sentence made Chu Tian stunned. The dean said it so naturally, as if he had casually said it. However, the speaker didn't mean it, but the listener took it seriously. The dean meant that he had the strength to suppress all the geniuses, Chapter 9:31. The Demonic Academy only ended today's enrollment in the evening. Today, the Demonic Academy recruited a total of 14 new disciples. More than a dozen people had already signed up. They just needed a few days to prepare the tuition fees. Lu Chun asked Bai Yi and the others to buy a lot of good wine and food. When they returned to Intentionless Mountain, they prepared a table full of food. A sea of clouds, the three heroes, Chu Tian, Xiao Zhan, and the others gathered around a large table. Other academies had their own dining hall, but the Demonic Academy had Lu Chun personally cooking. A group of people sat around a large round table and ate in the open air of the martial arts arena. Don't say, eating like this is quite enjoyable, Old Wine whispered. Yes, the director's cooking is also very good. Bai Yi poured wine for the newcomers. There are few people now, so the conditions are not good. Everyone, make do with it. Thank you, senior sister. Actually, we don't care about the environment. Being able to learn real skills is the most important thing. Thank you, senior sister. To be honest, I haven't had a good meal like this since I reached level 5. To be able to achieve achievements that others envied, these people had gone through more tests than others in the past. At the table, the new disciples gradually became familiar with each other. After eating and drinking, Lu Chun gave instructions on the academy's matters. The academy has just been established. So many areas have not been opened yet. Lu Chun said, usually you can train the martial arts arena using the creation space. Remember, when you cultivate, you must bring in the control talisman. Now, most of our energy is on enrollment. There is a limited number of control talismans. For the time being, each person will be given one every day. Director, we don't have to train these few days. Let's go to the recruitment area to help. There are too many people who need to be tested. Senior brothers and sisters are a little busy. Yes. Since we have joined the Demonic Academy, we are part of the Divine and Demon Academy. Leave these trivial matters to us. Lu Chun smiled. That's good. Come with us tomorrow. A sea of clouds suddenly said, Director, a few of my friends also want to teach in the academy. Some of them are old people from before Wunyan, and some came because of the academy's reputation. When do you have time to meet them? Anytime. But Olhai, did you just say that you came because of my reputation? That's right. I'm here because of its reputation. The Demonic Academy's reputation is spreading far and wide. They only accept news about geniuses, and their high fees have attracted a lot of attention. Chu Tian couldn't help but mutter, You guys still know that the fees are high. A sea of clouds smiled. Chu Tian, with your strength, you just need to focus on earning money. You'll be able to pay back 10 million in no time. Senior brother Chu, I have money here. Senior brother Xianji's interest is too high. I won't charge you interest. I'll help you pay it back first. Xiao Zhan secretly winked at Chu Tian. Really? That's great. Hey, how long have you guys known each other? You're already trying to trick your senior brother? Black Armor King glared at Xiao Zhan. Xiao Zhan, do you think you're smart? Hee. Senior brother, we newcomers are poor. You should earn less. Why can't I tell that you're poor? I only robbed a spirit stone mine in the past. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to take out so much money. Robbed a spirit stone mine? You're really bold. Gray Crow suddenly mentioned something. Dean, a few people from the outer court came today. A sea of clouds' uncle master let them in for the test. Then, a few of them asked me in private if I could accept them jumping ship. Oh, that person from Star Glory Sacred Academy seems to be Yin Su's senior brother. His results are pretty good too. He took 8 minutes. He wants to join our Godfiend Academy. 8 minutes is nothing. He's been cultivating in Star Glory for 10 years. His aptitude isn't outstanding, but he looked disdainful. Lu Chun nodded. We don't need those from the outer court. We could just recruit normally. There's no need to poach them. Then Lu Chun checked the situation of the academy. Currently, there were 17 students and 1 instructor. It seemed that there would be no problem recruiting 50 people in a month. Once they recruited 50 people, they could unseal the Spirit Meridian first. However, their current Spirit Meridian was still a temporary artificial Spirit Meridian. It couldn't be compared to the other academies. They would probably need to get some spirit sources to fill the Spirit Meridian and increased the density of spirit energy. Bai Yi and the others led the newcomers to their residence. Lu Chun left a sea of clouds behind. Dean, are you thinking about how to increase the density of spirit energy after unsealing the spirit meridian? A sea of clouds was too familiar with this place. He didn't need Lu Chun to say anything to know what Lu Chun was thinking. Yes, once we have 50 people, we have to think of a way to get some spirit sources. Where do you think we should go to get spirit sources? Dean, don't keep calling me Dean. It's quite awkward. Just call me Nameless. Okay, in the south of Xingyuan continent is the ominous Demon Sea. In the north is the Netherworld Prison. In the west is the Immortal Corpse Mount. In the east, let's not talk about the east for now. We're now in the southwest of Xingyuan continent. We can hunt in the ominous Demon Sea and the Netherworld Prison. These hunting areas have a special characteristic. The entire region is divided into 12 districts. 12 districts, yes. You can think of the 12 districts as concentric circles. The closer to the center, the stronger the demons. Of course, the stronger the spirit pills. Some academies will also issue some hunting missions to improve their spirit meridian. The lower academy mostly hunts in the outermost districts, districts 11 and 12. The academies will issue missions in districts 8 to 10 according to their strength, while the Sacred Academy will issue missions in districts 5 to 7. Of course, this isn't absolute. The missions issued by the academies are based on their strength. Our previous missions were usually concentrated in districts 7 and 9. Old C, which district do you think Chu Tian and Xiao Zhang will go to? Chu Tian has a calm temperament. He probably didn't use his full strength during the test. Therefore, I can only estimate that he should be in District 8. Xiao Zhan should be about the same. If they team up with Gray Crow and the other two, they could try District 7. Only District 7? District 7 is already very strong. The demons there are comparable to 3-star or 4-star Theo the Great. If they are unlucky, they will encounter 3rd-rank divine beasts or demons that are comparable to 5-star Theo the Great. They can't win. In the past, when we issued missions, it was for everyone in the academy. Gray Crow and the others also had to team up before they dared to go to District 7. Lu Chun frowned. If the spirit pills in District 7 were only at the level of 2nd-rank divine beasts, it didn't seem very strong. Not to mention the spirit meridian of the academy. How about this? After a while, I will go to the Nether Prison and get some high-level spirit pills. Dean, you're your body. I don't feel at ease if you go alone. What's there to be worried about? You don't have to treat me like a patient. No, I can't let you go alone. A sea of clouds was also a stubborn old man. But we need the spirit meridian. Lu Chun shook his head. A sea of clouds' determination was a little shaken. He thought about it and said, right, there will be a big hunting competition in half a month. Because it's not a Zhongxiangu event, all the academies can participate. Big hunting competition? Yes, we can participate in the Nether Prison competition. At that time, the dean will have to personally lead 50 students to participate and see which academy hunts the highest level demons. At that time, there will be spirit pills, magical weapons, immortal pills, and resources as rewards. If we can get into the top 10, we will get a small spirit meridian. It's better than you going alone. Damn, there are rewards? Then I must participate. Lu Chun was suddenly energized. Chapter 932. A sea of clouds gave Lu Chun a map of the Nether Prison. Lu Chun looked at the map alone. A sea of clouds said that the 12th district was 12 concentric circles, but it was obviously just a metaphor. It was impossible to draw it as a compass. The 12th district was not uniform, and the area was different. The outermost area was the largest, and the deeper you went, the smaller the area was. Lu Yi helped Lu Chun brew a new cup of tea and sat beside Lu Chun. Boss, if we encounter a rank 3 divine beast in the 7th district, it will be very dangerous. Your body is still too weak. Your stamina and spiritual energy consumption is very large, and a spiritual energy storm can't recover your spiritual energy. When Devil Beast Sovereign had just broken through to rank 2 Divine Beast, its strength was already very terrifying. A rank 3 Divine Beast speed must be even more terrifying. To use Genesis, you have to create an opportunity, which consumes a lot of stamina and spiritual energy. Even if you trap it, creating a high-intensity Genesis will definitely exhaust your spiritual energy and stamina. A Sea of Cloud senior said that in order to prevent being hunted down, it is very likely that the demons will move together. At that time, our situation will be very dangerous. The Genesis space was indeed very strong. Once trapped, even a rank 2 Divine Beast like Devil Beast Sovereign would be killed without any suspense. However, when Xiaozhan tested it today, when a huge amount of spiritual energy burst out, Lu Chun felt an obvious fluctuation in the space. Although the testing space was only used for testing, and Lu Chun did not inject too much initial spiritual energy, its strength was very low. However, this also meant that the Genesis space was far from being invincible. Origin God had once said that to deal with status skills, one had to either have a stronger status skill or take it head-on. Reality had proven that Origin God had taken the Resonance head-on and almost died, but he had not been killed. That meant that as long as one was strong enough, it was not impossible to take the Resonance head-on. Resonance was like that, and Genesis was probably similar. Little Green, what you said makes sense. When I killed Devil Beast Sovereign, I did not use Soul Body as one. I was holding back. If I were in my peak state, killing a Tier 3 or even a Tier 4 Divine Beast would not be a problem. But my current state is indeed a little troublesome. If we encounter multiple rank 3 Divine Beasts, old high strength should be around that of a 6-star Theo the Great. It's just that he's old, so his actual combat ability might be reduced. He should be able to pin down one Divine Beast, and the other students should be able to do the same if they work together. I have Heaven Piercing Sword and Genesis Sword, so I should be able to deal with 2. Little Beast, Little Furball, Little Originator, and the others. Lu Chun was startled for a moment. He was used to including Little Beast God and Little Furball in his battle strength. After he said it, he suddenly remembered that he had lost contact with those 3 little guys. If they were here, they could deal with 2 of them. Unfortunately, he didn't know where they were. Boss, Lu Chun sighed. I know, I will definitely find them. Let's talk about the matter at hand first. I don't think it's a problem to encounter a Tier 4 Divine Beast alone, but the problem is if we have to fight consecutively or if we encounter multiple Tier 4 Divine Beasts. Lu Chun couldn't only consider his own safety now. In the past, he could run if he couldn't win, but now he had to consider the safety of the students. There should be a lot of Saint Academies participating in this competition. If it were some powerful Saint Academies led by their deans and mentors, their target might be the 6th district or even the 5th district, where they would encounter Tier 4 or Tier 5 Divine Beasts. It seemed that he had underestimated the competition. In the dead of night, the new students had all returned to their own residences. Lu Chun sat alone in the dean's courtyard. It was said that the 6th heaven was a holy place for cultivation, but he had been here for more than a month, and his strength hadn't improved at all. He checked his own attributes. 2 lines of dazzling, abnormal statuses were particularly obvious. Physical body permanently damaged. Fatigue easily. Physical damage was fine, but fatigue easily was really troublesome. In the description of the dragon species, it mentioned that he could use attributes to raise dragon crystals, but it didn't say how to remove the weakened state. It's really annoying. Forget it, even if I'm in a weakened state, I have to see where my limits are. Thinking of this, Lu Chun stood up and went to the creation space he created. Not only do I have to see my limits, but I also have to see the limits of the creation space. Speaking of which, all the people who came out of the creation space were full of praise for the training effect of the space, but Lu Chun hadn't experienced it himself. Then, Lu Chun stepped into the creation space. In fact, Lu Chun ignored the excitement of these new students at the moment. Sleep? It was impossible to sleep so early. Those guys weren't sleeping at all. A group of people gathered in the small courtyard and chatted. The leaders were Gray Crow and the other 2 old students. Oh, We will have a school in the future. Haha. I collected a lot of information about Saint Academies. Who would have thought that I would end up in a lower house? Old Wine still couldn't believe it. Actually, although we are a lower house, look at our recruitment requirements. If you don't have a bit of strength, you can't get in. That's right. What's Saint Academies and Immortal Academies? When we grow up, we will beat them all. Gray Crow stared at these new students. All right, stop bragging. It's good to have confidence, but you can't be blindly confident. I have confidence in surpassing Saint Academies, but don't even think about Immortal Academies. The people there are all monsters. Senior brother, Immortal Academies want to test my strength. Why can't we beat them? Black Armor King said, that's just a test. They didn't say that they would accept. Immortal Academies are all mysterious. How many continents are there in the sixth heaven, and how many geniuses are there? Their Immortal Academy won't recruit more than 20 people a year. You should calculate the ratio. Xiao Zhan disdainfully said, who cares how many people they recruit? We will let them know who the boss is in the future. He laughed. It's not even set in stone yet, and you're all thinking about Immortal Academies. First, keep your feet on the ground and cultivate well. Our principal is low-key. Can't you all be low-key? How is the principal low-key? If he is low-key, can he fight with the 20 academies alone? But speaking of which, I'm really curious. What is the principal's true strength like? While they were talking, they suddenly saw a golden light shining in the direction of the training field, almost illuminating half of the intentionless mountain. What's going on? Someone broke into our demonic academy. Everyone rushed out of the small courtyard. At this time, in the training space of the academy, a person was facing the attack of tens of thousands of sword shadows. So many sword shadows? How many minutes has he lasted? Who is in the testing space? Look at his figure, broken arm. It's the principal. Quick, let's go and see. The training space within the Divine Magic Academy was clearly not something a mere testing space could compare to. The area here was much larger, and the amount of spiritual energy Lu Chun could inject was also much greater. After entering the training space, Lu Chun directly faced the sword shadows head-on, making the sword shadows grow rapidly, reaching tens of thousands of sword chi in a short time. The sword shadows turned into a giant dragon, rushing toward the somewhat weak figure. At this time, in front of the principal, there was a black and white double-colored sword. If one looked carefully, they would find that the shape of the sword was exactly the same as those sword shadows. The principal is he going to take on so many sword shadows? Chu Tian's eyes widened, and his face was filled with disbelief. Chapter 9:33. Chu Tian remembered that the dean had told him that if he had to hold on for 10 minutes, he could only endure for the last few minutes. Xiao Zhan had relied on this method to almost break through the 10 minutes mark. However, this was the Academy's training space. It was much stronger than the testing space. From a number of sword shadows, it was unknown how long the dean had been in here. At this moment, they realized that the dean's appearance had changed. His originally mediocre appearance instantly changed. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and his skin was snow white. The aura that erupted from his body was unbelievable. The light that had just appeared was Lu Chen's soul-body unification. What? The dean is only using soul-body unification now. He's only a one-star cultivator's body. How could he hold on until now? Chu Tian suddenly said, "Attack, continuously attack. Let the sword shadows quickly split." The dean did not use displacement to dodge from the beginning. Xiao Zhan nodded. That's the only possibility. However, what is the dean trying to do? Lu Chun was completely focused on the sword shadows and did not notice that the students had already come out. After soul-body unification, Lu Chen's attributes had greatly increased. At this moment, Lu Chun was only 2 Heaven's Might skills away from reaching his strongest state. Formless. Fierce Tiger descends the mountain. Sacred Lotus Sword Heart. It's the Sacred Lotus Sword Heart. Hui Ye's eyes widened. He had been defeated by the dean's move. However, the sacred lotus sword heart that Lu Chun had used was on a completely different level from the one he had used against him in Black Armor King. Over 2,000 sword chi followed Lu Chun's quick movements and wildly shot outwards. Every sword chi collided with the sword shadows in the space, causing a terrifying spiritual energy explosion. Hong 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 hong. The spiritual energy explosion had already sounded out countless times. Lu Chun was a little regretful. Could it be that he had woken up the students? Forget it. Now is not the time to think about this. My God, how high is the Dean's attack? My raging flame burst, and true burning fire could not reach such a terrifying attack in such a short time. Xiao Zhan's eyes were about to split open. The sacred lotus sword heart's attack is very high, Black Armor King suddenly said. If the Dean had used this move with all his strength, I would not have been able to hold on for even a second. Actually, until now, I still can't figure out how strong the Dean's fighting soul is. Who was it that cut off the Dean's arm? Grey Crow shook his head and sighed. More than 2,000 rays of sword chi collided countless times with a black dragon formed by the sword shadows. Although Lu Chun had blocked this wave of attacks, the sword shadows were also rapidly dividing. 1 into 4, 1 into 5. In the blink of an eye, the sword shadow dragon's body expanded several times, roaring towards Lu Chun in the center. At this point, Lu Chun was already panting heavily. Fierce Tiger descends the mountain and Holy Lotus Sword Heart had consumed too much of his spiritual energy and stamina. Even though his spiritual energy had reached 5 million and his physique was over 2 million, the power of his skills was too great. The consumption was already terrifying to begin with, not to mention that it was now 11 times the consumption. He had been in the space for more than 10 minutes. Every minute and second consumed a large amount of physical strength and spiritual power. Now, he was like a lamp that had run out of oil. Damn it! Lu Chun's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He really hated this weakened state. Taking medicine was useless. He couldn't cultivate. He couldn't even fight with his full strength. Damn it, I don't believe this. Can't this stupid disease be cured? Lu Chun shouted angrily. He held the limitless demon sword in his hand and fiercely swung it. Sky-piercing sword. After this move, Lu Chun spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, the sword chi shot towards the tens of thousands of sword shadows. A red and white light instantly split the dragon's body. With a boom, countless sword shadows collided with the sky-piercing sword chi, quickly forming a huge spiritual energy ball that kept expanding. Lu Chun panted heavily, watching the spiritual energy ball expand bigger and bigger. The spiritual energy it contained was already unimaginable. Not good. Lu Chun's heart suddenly tightened. If this spiritual energy ball exploded, he was afraid that the creation space would be blown apart. How can my sky-piercing sword be so powerful? Lu Chun didn't use the sky-piercing sword in his best state. He only used it when his physical strength and spiritual energy were overdrawn. Logically speaking, the effect should be greatly reduced. However, the power of this sword was more powerful than the one that killed the magical bee sovereign. At this time, the speed and power of the sword shadows were extremely terrifying, and his sword was actually in a stalemate with tens of thousands of sword shadows. At this moment, Lu Chun suddenly realized that a black luster flashed on his right arm, like a scale flipping, and then quickly disappeared. And this is the dragon crystal? Lu Chun didn't have time to think about what happened at this time. The spiritual energy ball in front of him was rolling bigger and bigger. It hadn't exploded yet, indicating that it was still accumulating power. If this went on, not only would the creation space explode, but the few buildings would also be razed to the ground. He had heard of students causing trouble, but who had heard of the dean leading the destruction? Lu Chun couldn't summon any strength now. This is the space I created. I should be able to resolve it. Lu Chun hurriedly sat cross-legged. Spiritual energy. Selfless. Lu Chun quickly integrated into the creation space and sensed the spiritual energy in the spiritual energy ball. At this time, the spiritual energy ball was like a volcanic eruption. The turbulent spiritual energy was rolling crazily, constantly filling up the spiritual energy ball, causing the spiritual energy ball to contain more and more. Since from nothing to something, there must be a way to from something to nothing. At this time, I can't let the creation space handle it by itself. In the original world of Heavenly Star, countless volcanoes erupted at that time, but the planet was safe and sound. It was nothing more than relying on diluting energy and converting energy. Thinking of this, Lu Chun quickly converted the spiritual pills into chaos spiritual pills. Through the spiritual energy ball, he injected the thin spiritual energy in the surrounding air into the spiritual energy ball. Using the chaos spiritual energy's attribute, he assimilated the violent spiritual energy in the spiritual energy ball. The creation space was originally a space created by Lu Chun. In the external environment, Lu Chun couldn't use his own spiritual energy to interfere with other people's spiritual energy, but in here, he could easily do so. Gradually, the spiritual energy ball finally stabilized inside. As Lu Chun continued to dilute the condensed energy in the spiritual energy ball quickly expanded, and the outside began to disintegrate. Although it was just diluting the spiritual energy ball, Lu Chun was already exhausted. Now he was even more exhausted, but he still insisted on disintegrating the spiritual energy ball. Finally, the spiritual energy ball was completely disintegrated. Lu Chun used all his strength to walk out of the creation space shakily. Then his vision turned black, and he collapsed. Dean, Gray Crow, and the others rushed over. Arriving in front of Lu Chun, he suddenly sucked in a breath. Was this incomparably handsome man really their Dean? Now, his face was pale, but it couldn't hide his peerless appearance. "What are you looking at? Quickly help the Dean back to rest." Gray Crow carried Lu Chun and rushed back to the Dean's room. As he ran, he shouted, Miss Green, Miss Green!" Xiao Zhan, who was always quick-witted, stood there in a daze. He looked back at the creation space that had been restored to its original state, and his eyes were filled with shock. This is the Dean's strength. Chapter 9:34. Lu Chun wasn't injured, but he was too weak and fainted. When Lu Chun woke up, it was already noon the next day. In a daze, Lu Chun saw the disciples sitting around his bed, frowning. The atmosphere in the room was strange. Looking at the expressions of these people, if he didn't wake up, he was afraid that he would be in a funeral. "You guys," a sea of clouds heard Lu Chun's voice and rushed over. The others also surrounded him. "Nameless, you're awake. Dean, what are your orders? Dean, what do you want to say?" Before Lu Chun could finish his words, he found that a group of people were extremely anxious. "Do you have water?" "Yes, yes, yes." A sea of clouds hurriedly looked for water and helped Lu Chun sit up. Lu Chun drank a big bowl of water in 2 or 3 mouthfuls and took a breath. He looked at the group of people, and his brain couldn't wrap itself around it. "Last night, were you all woken up by me? I also forgot that you all came to the academy. Dean, we didn't sleep at that time. We just happened to see you training in the space." Gray Crow said, "Dean, are you okay? Yesterday, there were tens of thousands of sword shadows in the space. We were scared out of our wits." Lu Chun thought his right arm. His eyes swept over his arm and found that the dragon scales that appeared last night didn't appear. Was it an illusion? He had to study it when he had time. "Nothing, I'm just too tired. I wanted to test the strength of the space." "All right, what time is it now? We still have to recruit people." A sea of clouds' heart tightened. The Dean had just woken up from a coma and was still thinking about recruiting people. "How about this? You all go to the recruitment office first. The newcomers there are still waiting for the test. I'll go there later. Nameless, we have control talismans. You can rest well in the academy today. Leave the recruitment to us." A sea of clouds said, "Yes, Dean, we can all help senior brother, senior sister, and master a sea of clouds. You just need to rest at home." Lu Chun looked at these people. They were all very strong, so it was fine to leave it to them. "That's good too. Little Green is enough to accompany me. You all can go." A sea of clouds knew that recruiting students was still the academy's top priority. If they didn't go as soon as possible, Nameless wouldn't feel at ease. Then have a good rest. Miss Lou, you have to look after him. Senior AC of Clouds, don't worry. I've been by Boss's side for many years. I'll take good care of him. A Sea of Clouds nodded and led the disciples to the recruitment office. After the others left, Lu Yi brought over a tonic, which Lu Chen drank in one gulp. After drinking the medicine, Lu Chen felt a little better. He opened his personal panel to check. He skipped all the other information and went straight to the information about the dragon species. Dragon type: unknown mutated dragon. Level: first transformation. Due to forcefully activating the dragon species without sufficient attributes, the host is currently in a weakened state. In this state, the physical body is in a state of fatigue. The consumption of physical strength and spiritual power is increased by 10 times. Recovery skills and recovery pills cannot be used. In this state, all attributes cannot be increased. Attribute Rearing Dragon Crystal obtained. It can remove the weakened state. However, the way to remove the weakened state is unknown. These didn't change, but there was an additional line of words behind the dragon type description. Type unknown. Currently, it is confirmed that the resurrection effect cannot be activated. Dragon Crystal Activation Number 1. Activation Strength. Second Transformation. Effect: movement speed increased by 100%. Every 30 seconds, the next attack, normal attack, or skill attack, will be accompanied by a true dragon attack. Attack strength increased by 4 times. True dragon attack. Lu Chen frowned. No wonder dragon scales appeared on his right arm. At that time, he was in a very bad state. Logically speaking, he should only be able to display 30 to 40% of its power. The result was far beyond his expectations. It seemed that it was because of the true dragon attack. It really activated the dragon crystal state. Lu Chen's eyes widened. I didn't test my movement speed at that time, but the data said that it could be doubled. A strengthened true dragon attack every 30 seconds. It seems that my mutated dragon isn't useless after all. The second transformation dragon species state seemed to be very strong. For example, a powerful skill like the sky-piercing sword, if it could deal 5 times the damage, it would be unimaginable. The only problem was that it was prone to fatigue. So far, Lu Chen still hadn't found a solution to this problem. Using attributes to rearing the dragon crystal can remove the weakened state of ordinary dragons, but I'm a mutated dragon. Why don't I try to see if the attributes can be reared? Lu Chen thought. Lu Chen embezzled 10,000 yuan of public funds and exchanged them for 1,000 spiritual energy and 3,000 strength, agility, and physique to try to add points to himself. Unable to increase spiritual energy in the weakened state. Attributes are devoured. Unable to increase physical energy in the weakened state. Attributes are devoured. Lu Chen didn't care. He was here to feed the dragon crystal anyway. After trying all 4 attributes, Lu Chen found that they were of no use at all. Damn it! After devouring, can't you at least have some reaction? Lu Chen was speechless. He had just thrown 10,000 yuan of spiritual energy into the water. Forget it. Let's not care about this for now. At least I know that my mutated dragon species is still useful. Lu Chen comforted himself. Speaking of which, if he activated the second transformation dragon species, the power of his next attack would be increased by 5 times. Then, a set of Holy Lotus or Heart should be able to kill a level 5 divine beast. A level 5 divine beast would definitely be able to get a ranking. It seems that I need to overdraw my physical strength to activate the second transformation dragon species. No, I have to try again. It just so happened that he was very weak now. It was a good time to train again. Lu Chen got out of bed and went straight to the creation space. Boss, what are you doing? I'm going to try some moves, Lu Chen said and ran away. Lu Chen had eliminated the spiritual energy ball last time. This time, he should be able to do it too. He wantonly attacked the space, quickly forcing himself into a state of overdrawing. With his stirring, a large number of sword shadows formed in the creation space, converging into a giant dragon. Lu Chun trembled as he raised the demon god Limitless Sword. Tiger descends the mountain. Holy Lotus Sword Heart. The moment he raised his hand, pieces of dragon scales quickly appeared on his right arm. He entered the second transformation dragon species state. This time, Lu Chen's attack was accompanied by a true dragon's attack. 2,160 sword auras whizzed out and fiercely collided with the sword shadow dragon. Lu Chen couldn't even lift his sword now, but his eyes were excitedly looking at the explosion coming from the sky. So strong. Not good. The spiritual energy ball is coming again. Quick, quick. Lu Chen was happy for less than 2 seconds. He hurriedly entered the state of spiritual energy refinement and anitta to dissolve the spiritual energy ball. In the evening, a group of new disciples happily followed their senior brothers and sisters and the great teacher of a sea of clouds on the way back to Intentionless Mountain. From afar, they could see the fireworks in the night sky at the top of Intentionless Mountain. Is the dean welcoming us? He even specially prepared the fireworks for us. Why didn't the dean set off fireworks when we joined the academy yesterday? Turtle, look at this. The martial arts practice field is about to explode. Listen to this sound, it's so exciting. Martial arts practice field? Fireworks? A sea of clouds looked at the light at the top of the mountain in surprise. He felt that something was wrong. Chapter 9:35. When everyone returned to the top of the mountain, they didn't see any fireworks, and even the dean was gone. Miss Lu said that the dean had already rested. Everyone felt a burst of anxiety. In order to let them use the space to train with peace of mind, the dean did not hesitate to check the training space for them with a weak body. He had not recovered yet. The next day, Lu Chen got up very early. A sea of clouds reported yesterday's situation. Because they went late, many newcomers who came from afar had left, and only 4 people were recruited yesterday. The results were all 6 or 7 minutes. During breakfast, Lu Chen also saw the 4 new disciples, who were very ambitious and full of expectations for the future. Since they were late yesterday, they should go earlier today. A sea of clouds and the others had breakfast and took the disciples to the recruitment office. A sea of clouds had been taking all the newcomers to the recruitment office to cultivate their sense of belonging. After all, there was no mentor to guide them in the academy, so it was better to help them together. Lu Chen was not feeling well, so he naturally recuperated at home. Boss, are you still going to try today? Will your body be able to bear it? Lu Yi said worriedly. No, I have found the critical point to activate the second stage dragon seed state yesterday. It is probably when my physical strength is exhausted. In that case, I can barely use the Holy Lotus Sword Heart once, or the one sword breaks the sky once, and the power can't be fully used. I can only use about 40 to 60%. I thought about it. Hunting the 5th order beast is still too dangerous. Forget it. This time I will hunt the 4th order beast first. Whether I can get a ranking depends on my luck. With so many newcomers, I can't put them all in such a dangerous situation. At worst, I will go a few more times in the future and get some 4th order beast pills to support me for a while. Lu Yi finally breathed a sigh of relief. The boss finally thought it through. Boss, you are too strict with yourself. The big hunting match is not an event held by Zhongxingge. There is no need to take so many risks. Lu Chen nodded. Yesterday, he had used soul-body fusion. At this time, it didn't matter if he had soul-body fusion or not, but the big hunting match was different. The duration of soul-body fusion here was short, and the recovery time was slow. To be safe, he had to save up 30 minutes of soul-body fusion before the competition. In order to facilitate the management of the academy, Lu Chen gave a sea of clouds a private voice-transmitting talisman. At noon, when Lu Chen was cultivating his war soul in his room, he suddenly received a message from a sea of clouds. Nameless, are you feeling better? If there's nothing serious, then come here to take a look. Today, it's really a fierce battle. In one morning, I've already recruited 8 people. Among them, there are 2 whose strengths are only slightly inferior to Chu Tianxiao's. Lu Chan frowned slightly and exited the symbiotic state. A sea of clouds sounded very excited. The recruitment office seemed to be very lively. Lu Chun immediately rushed to the recruitment office. At the recruitment office, there were more people than usual today. Just those who wanted to take the test had a long queue, not to mention those who came to watch the fun. In contrast, the recruitment offices of other academies were deserted. Some academies' recruitment offices didn't even have any students. He didn't know if they came to watch the fun. Damn, there are thousands of people here. Yesterday, no one from the Demonic Academy came. Many people who left yesterday came in the afternoon today, causing a lot of people to flood into the recruitment office. A few young people walked beside Lu Chen. Hey, it's really here. The people from the Divine Demon Academy are here. I waited all morning yesterday and didn't see them. Fortunately, I'm here again today. It's easy to come all the way here. Now the Demonic Academy's testing space is almost the most popular project. Well, many other academies seem to have started testing projects, but I haven't heard of any project as magical as this one. Let's hurry up. It'll be painful if we can't get in line. The 21 disciples of the Demonic Academy, including Old C, were still a bit busy. The 8 newbies who joined in the morning all went to help. Black Armor King stood on the stage and kept shouting, "Don't worry, everyone. Line up in order. We have people making control talismans on the spot. We can have 300 testers today." Lu Chen was a bit surprised. At first, Lu Chen had to cooperate with Bai Yi to record the process of making control talismans. However, after making them many times, Bai Yi could make them herself. It was just that making talismans consumed a lot of spiritual energy. It was already good that Bai Yi could make 100 of them a day. However, Chu Tian and Xiao Zhan also knew how to make talismans. It seemed that they were learning from Bai Yi in the morning and were making them now. Geniuses are indeed geniuses. Lu Chan sighed sincerely. They can even make talismans. Are they all multitasking? Not only were Chu Tian and Xiao Zhan helping, but there were also a few people who were learning from them. Grey Crow was now giving the control talismans to the testers. If he felt that he couldn't pass, he could use the talismans himself. He was in charge of timing. Black Armor King was the loudspeaker here. He brought a group of junior brothers and sisters to maintain order. He also gave out some loan sharks. A Sea of Clouds was in charge of the overall situation. At the same time, those who were confident that they could pass the test in 8 minutes could directly ask him for priority testing. In general, although the people of the Demonic Academy were busy, they were orderly. A Sea of Clouds looked at the busy scene and felt very happy. He didn't expect that the president's creation space would bring the Demonic Academy back to life. At this speed, 50 testers a month would be child's play. In a few days, he would be able to complete the first month's mission and unlock the spirit vein. The quality is so high. Nameless brother, this old man is really impressed. A Sea of Clouds was talking to himself proudly. Suddenly, a young man walked in front of him. Uncle A Sea of Clouds. A Sea of Clouds heard the voice and turned to look strangely. A Sea of Clouds' eyes widened when he saw this guy. It's you. The young man was dressed plainly. His clothes were a bit shabby. God knows how many times it had been repaired by a tailor. Uncle, you still remember me? Of course I remember. You're finally here. The young man smiled slightly. Uncle, I heard about the Wunyan Academy and the Demonic Academy 2 days ago. It's just that I ran too far and only came back today. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. By the way, those people who chased after you. A Sea of Clouds whispered. I killed a few, and a few ran away. Sigh. They won't stop until I'm dead. Sooner or later, I'll kill my way to their nest. By the way, Uncle, in this testing space, the reward is 10 million if you last 10 minutes. Is it still effective? A Sea of Clouds shrunk his neck. It's effective, but you might as well join the Demonic Academy. The young man's eyes lit up. Uncle, I also want to go back to the Wunyan Academy. In the past, they wouldn't do anything to the Wunyan Academy because of Zhongxinge. But now their strength has increased greatly. I'm afraid they don't care about the average academy. Besides, the Demonic Academy is just a lower academy. Zhongxinge won't get into a conflict with them for a lower academy. I've been drifting for so long. Of course, I want to have a place to stay, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid I'll implicate you. As he spoke, the young man's eyes dimmed. Although the time in the Wu Yin Academy wasn't long, the care of a sea of clouds as dean and the care of his fellow disciples made him finally feel like he was home. Along the way, it was probably only the time in the Wu Yin Academy that made him nostalgic. Uncle, if I can last 10 minutes, just give me 500,000 spirit stones. Yi Fan is ashamed that he has to earn money from the demonic academy. But I have nowhere to make a living now. I really need spirit stones. Chapter 9:36. A sea of clouds shook his head helplessly. If not for his limited abilities, he really wanted to help Yi Fan. At that moment, he saw Lu Chun walking over unsteadily. Suddenly, he saw a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Yi Fan, don't be in a hurry to take the test. Come with me to meet the dean of the demonic academy. Perhaps he has a way. Uncle Master Yun, forget it. I don't want to burden you. It's fine to meet him. When the time comes, you can decide whether a god fiend will come. We won't force you. With that said, a sea of clouds pulled Yi Fan in front of Lu Chun. Nameless, do you remember the thoughtless disciple I mentioned to you, Yi Fan? Lu Chun looked at the two of them in surprise. Finally, his gaze landed on the embarrassed young man. Old C, is he Yi Fan? Senior Nameless, hello. This junior is Yi Fan. Yi Fan cupped his fists and bowed slightly. Lu Chun smiled slightly. You are not a god fiend disciple yet. I can't be considered your senior. Hello, I'm Nameless. Lu Chun still remembered that a sea of clouds had mentioned that Yi Fan was very talented. And for some reason, when he heard this name, he felt that this person was Bo Fan. Perhaps he had read too many novels in the past. Since a sea of clouds thought highly of him, Lu Chun naturally had a fight for him. Yi Fan, since you are here, why don't you take the test? It would be great if you could come to our demonic academy. Our academy also has many former thoughtless disciples. Old C and a few thoughtless instructors will come in the future. Yi Fan found it hard to speak. When a sea of clouds saw this, he hurriedly pulled Lu Chun to the side. Director, that child carries a blood feud with them, and the other party is very powerful. I heard from Yi Fan that they have several top experts on their side, which makes them even more powerful. Even Zhongxingge doesn't want to have a direct confrontation with them. That child doesn't want to drag us down and only wants to win the prize money. He doesn't want to join the demonic academy. Lu Chun frowned. No wonder a sea of clouds said that this guy couldn't afford the tuition fees. Being hunted down every day, it would be a wonder if he had any money on him. He doesn't want much. After passing the test, he only wants 500,000 spirit stones. He probably doesn't have any money to live on right now. A sea of clouds didn't forget to speak up for Yi Fan. Lu Chun asked, Old Hai, do you think he can last more than 10 minutes? That child is a rare genius. When he first joined the Intentionless Academy, he hadn't fully revealed his talent, but at that time, I could already see that he wasn't a fish in a pond. It's a pity that the Intentionless Academy was already in a difficult situation and could only barely hold on. Otherwise, I would have definitely nurtured that child with all my strength. In my opinion, his aptitude is better than Chu Tian and Xiao Zhan. Sigh. If his opponents weren't so strong, I reckon that even if he went to the Immortal Academy, this child would still be able to make a name for himself. Lu Chen's frown became tighter and tighter. Chu Tian and Xiao Zhan were already considered top talents among the newcomers, but a sea of clouds was actually so sure that Yi Fan was stronger than them. At this time, Lu Chun was simply thirsting for talent. When he heard a sea of clouds' evaluation of Yi Fan, his heart also itched. Nameless, do you think we? A sea of clouds looked at Lu Chun, waiting for his decision. Lu Chun directly walked in front of Yi Fan. Yi Fan, Old Hai told me about your general situation. Nameless Dean, Yi Fan is really ashamed. Yi Fan respects Martial Uncle a sea of clouds, but I have to earn spirit stones from him. Lu Chun smiled faintly. I've set the rules, so as long as you meet the conditions, you can obtain a reward if you can last for 10 minutes. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Moreover, If you want to stay, my demonic academy will also welcome you. Yifan looked at Lu Chun in surprise. Nameless Dean, didn't Marshal Uncle Yin mention my enemy to you just now? I'm afraid that if I stay, it will be detrimental to the demonic academy. Lu Chun had a faint smile on his face. You only need to know that if you join the demonic academy and follow the rules of the demonic academy, then the demonic academy will be your backer. As for whether this backer is strong or not, that's not your problem to worry about. That's my problem. This. Yifan's eyes widened. Was this one-armed guy sure he was a dean? Other deans were all overcautious and kept a low profile. Why was this guy so arrogant? Didn't he even ask who his opponent was? Lu Chun saw that Yifan was still hesitating, so he smiled and said gently, "Of course, the decision is yours. A close friend of mine once told me that the most precious right of a person is the right to choose. The most precious right is the right to choose." Yifan savored this sentence carefully. That's right. Lu Chun took a deep breath. There was probably no one who understood the meaning of this sentence better than him. Wasn't it because he was unwilling to compromise and chose to adhere to his own beliefs that he had come this far? Whether you choose to become a god fiend or continue to wander, that's your right. Whether you choose to submit or resist, that's also your right. Whether you choose to forget your hatred and live your life in disgrace, or to endure and cultivate so that you can take revenge one day, that's your right. Whether it's your enemy or your fate, they're all external forces. How you choose in the end, it's all up to you. Don't forget your original intentions. Only then can you reach the end. Since you've decided on something, you must follow it to the end. When Yifan heard these words when he was at his lowest point, it made his heart tremble. At this moment, Yifan suddenly felt as if someone had read him. It was as if there were many similarities between him and Nameless, which was why there was such a strong resonance. Even the dean knows me well. All right, let's go and try the testing space. Speaking of which, this space has been here for a few days now. Until now, no one has been able to last more than 10 minutes. As he said this, Lu Chun smiled at Yifan and then walked into the resting area. Yifan was silent for a long time. No matter whether he decided to join the demonic academy or not, he had to take the test first. A sea of clouds deliberately let Black Armor King stand in the testing space and replace Grey Crow in distributing the control talismans. Black Armor King didn't think too much about it. It was the same anyway. However, when he was about to distribute the control talismans to the next tester, he was stunned when he saw the person in front of him. Junior Yifan? It's you? Senior Armor King. Long time no see. How have you been? Yifan cupped his fists and bowed. When Black Armor King saw Yifan, he was excited. He hurriedly turned to a sea of clouds and saw a sea of clouds nodding at him. It seemed that the latter already knew that Yifan was here. Junior Yifan, it's really you. I'm doing well. I'm still the same as before, running errands and collecting profits. I've already joined the demonic academy. You, on the other hand, are so poor every day. Without me lending you money, you're still alive. Yifan couldn't help but laugh. Senior Armor King, I can still fill my stomach. Fill your stomach? Please pay me back the 300,000 spirit stones you owe me first. How long has it been? The interest should be more than 100,000. Although Black Armor King was asking for money, he was smiling and didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. Senior Armor King, talking about money hurts our relationship. After I pass this testing space, I'll pay you back double. Ha ha ha. Will you die if you don't brag all day long? It's not easy to pass 10 minutes. Why don't you join the Divine Demon Academy and join us? We'll work together and make a name for ourselves. Your Senior Armor King doesn't want you to pay back the 300,000 spirit stones. Senior Armor King, you're such a miser. You don't want me to pay back the money? Forget it. I'd better pay back the money as soon as possible. Otherwise, if I really join the Divine Demon Academy, I'll be at your beck and call all day long. Yifan hadn't decided whether to join the Divine Demon Academy or not. When he was teasing his Senior Armor King, he inadvertently thought of all the interesting things that happened when he joined the Divine Demon Academy. When Yifan said it, he suddenly realized that he also wanted to go back to the former courtyard of Intentionless and focus on cultivation with his seniors and juniors. Chapter 9:37. Let's not talk about this for now. Test it first. This is a control talisman. Black Armor King handed over a copy. Yi Fan looked at the quality of the copy. Earth-level talisman paper? This must cost a lot of spirit stones. It's okay. The Academy will reimburse me anyway. Yi Fan thought for a while and said, "Forget it, I don't need this. Save it for the people behind me." No need? Yi Fan, this testing space is extremely dangerous towards the end. I've heard about it, but I'm confident. Black Armor King couldn't help but gasp. As expected of Yi Fan, this guy had given them plenty of scares in the past. Without waiting for Black Armor King to finish, Yi Fan actually walked into the testing space by himself. Black Armor King's eyes widened and hurriedly ran to Lu Chen's side. Principal, Director Cloud, Yi Fan didn't bring the control talisman. Without the control talisman, to stop the array, Lu Chen had to control it. But to the newcomers, especially those who came in the last 2 days, many didn't know that the gods and demons had other ways to stop the testing space. In other words, that guy didn't seem to want anyone to save him. A sea of clouds was a little anxious and said to Lu Chen, "Nameless, Yi Fan is just like that. Don't be fooled by his low profile usually, but when he does something, he's like a lunatic." Lu Chen smiled faintly. "This kid is really interesting. Don't worry, I'm here. He'll be fine." In the testing space, the news of someone not using the control talisman quickly spread. Chu Tian and Xiao Zhan also looked at the figure in the testing space with concern. Countless people around them craned their necks, and many people from other academies were also paying close attention. He didn't bring the control talisman? Is he not planning to come out? How arrogant. Who is this guy? I've never seen him before. A Celestial Academy recruitment disciple squinted his eyes and sized him up. He looks familiar. I think he's the demon from the Academy of Wunyan. Is it really that demon? Damn, quick, report to the headmaster. Hasn't the headmaster been looking for him? At this moment, Yi Fan was already standing in the testing space. Unlike everyone else, he closed his eyes as soon as he entered the space. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. Spiritual Qi refinement? Lu Chen's heartbeat quickened all of a sudden. Finally, he had met someone who knew how to use spiritual energy. He really wanted this person. Damn, Old Hai, why don't you say that he knows how to enter the minute's subtlety? If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have been so casual. Lu Chen pinched Old Hai's arm. He didn't seem to know it in the past. Could it be that he comprehended it recently? That's even harder to come by. Lu Chen was regretting his decision. It would be a shame if this SSR player ran away. Yi Fan had been carefully sensing the fluctuations of spiritual energy in the air. When the first sword shadow had pierced towards him, he had used an extremely small displacement to dodge the attack. Lu Chen nodded. This was indeed the best way to deal with the situation. When no one else entered the creation space, it was always very peaceful. Yi Fan must have noticed this and tried his best not to change the fluctuations of spiritual energy in the space. As expected, Yi Fan's sword shadows grew slower than everyone else's in the testing space. He easily passed 6 minutes. He didn't even activate Soul Body as one. Or did he block the sword shadows? No way, what did he do? Why are the sword shadows splitting so slowly? It feels like he's trying to become one with the space. But he didn't manage to do it. The number of sword shadows is starting to increase. His 6 minutes is like everyone else's 2 minutes. It's impossible for him to become one with the space. It's already unbelievable that he could do this. 6 minutes and 40 seconds later, the number of sword shadows increased. Yi Fan still didn't counterattack. He only increased the range of his movement. His movement technique was very particular. He was agile and fast. His changes were strange, and his reaction was also very fast. When surrounded by multiple parties, he could often find the best escape route. 8 minutes and 52 seconds later, the sword shadows filled the testing space. Thousands of sword shadows came from all directions, almost blocking all escape routes. Yi Fan finally began to counterattack. His attacks continued to follow the principle of using just the right amount of strength. The silver-white sword in his hand moved like lightning. It was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. When he touched the sword shadow, he would change its path. As Yifan's control of spiritual energy was too exquisite, the speed at which the sword shadows split was slower than everyone else's. 10 points. Yifan still hadn't activated soul body as one. Oh my god, it's been 10 minutes. Someone has held on for more than 10 minutes. Why does it feel so easy to watch him fight? His moves are like moving clouds and flowing water. His movement technique is just right. His spiritual energy control is exquisite. Is this guy really a newcomer under 10 years old? Let's not talk about those under 10 years old. How many old disciples who have been here for 30 to 40 years can do this? 12 points. At this moment, there were already more than 10,000 sword shadows. Yifan finally entered soul body as one and began to fight the sword dragons head-on. 9 stars fall. Black pin, divine transformation. Demonic wind, ghostly shadow. Holy Buddha, ascetic Buddha seal. True fire, demon-subduing Buddha finger. Black pin, divine transformation. Astral wind, sword intent. Luchin narrowed his eyes slightly. Sword spirit, martial god, martial artist. This guy had at least 3 professions. In terms of the elements, wind and fire were very strong. His moves were seamless and could split freely. His moves were like moving clouds and flowing water. Yifan's elemental fusion of so many professions could be said to be perfect. 14 minutes into the battle, Yifan was like a god descending. His eyes were red, and the silver sword in his hand ignited with flames. This testing space is actually endless. It's very compatible with the Tao of Yin and Yang, and has already formed its own system. The more time passes, the more mature it becomes. Yifan narrowed his eyes slightly. This was the first time he encountered such a situation. Only by exceeding the limits of the space within a short period of time can this space be broken. Immediately, terrifying spiritual energy erupted from Yifan's body. Like a raging fire, it directly swept away the sword shadows around him. It's been 14 minutes. He still has a trump card? Xiaozhan widened his eyes and looked at Yifan in disbelief. Chu Tian narrowed his eyes slightly. This fellow is really strong. Even if he used his killing move, he might not be able to win. However, just as Yifan was accumulating power, the sword shadows around him suddenly disappeared. Then, a figure slowly walked into the testing space. Yifan looked at the person in surprise. The person was the president of Xinghua Sacred Academy, Di Xian. Di Xian smiled at Yifan. Yifan, come to Xinghua Sacred Academy. Wait. Suddenly, a large group of people came from outside the space. What was shocking was that all the people who came were frightening. There was another academy in the same area, 100 Battles Academy, Paladin Academy, and many other academies nearby. There were even 4 or 5 high-level instructors from High Firmament Academy and North Pole Academy. On their chest badges, there was only the word immortal. The one who spoke was an old man with the word immortal on his chest. This person had white hair and a youthful face. When he looked at Yifan, his eyes were shining. People from Immortal Academy? Oh my god, they are from Immortal Academy. People from Immortal Academy are all here? They're here to snatch that guy. No way, what kind of academy is this? So many academies are breaking the recruitment rules for that guy. Is that guy really a world-shaking genius? Chapter 9:38. The Dean of 100 War Academy personally came to recruit, but before he could open his mouth, he saw the representatives of Immortal Academy. He forcefully swallowed the speech he had prepared. Although Immortal Academy was elusive, many continents didn't even have their own Immortal Academy. But what was strange was that every time a super genius appeared, they would definitely be seen. Many geniuses who came to Sixth Heaven would receive an invitation from Immortal Academy. Of course, Yifan wasn't really a newcomer. So many people didn't understand why Immortal Academy's people would appear here. But regardless of the reason, Immortal Academy's people came. Even Sacred Academy's dean didn't dare to act rashly in front of them. Immortal Academy's elder had a smile on his face as he directly walked into the testing space. Xian's expression was a bit unnatural. Originally, their Glorious Star Academy was definitely ranked high among the nearby academies, but who would have thought that Immortal Academy's people would appear out of nowhere? Xian, can you let this old man talk with little friend Yi Fan for a bit? The elder cupped his fists and asked. Xian took half a step back. Immortal Elder, what are you saying? Please. The elder stood in front of Yi Fan. Yi Fan, are you willing to come to Immortal Academy to give it a try? With your aptitude, staying in prosperous Origin Continent is really a waste of talent. In the distance, Grey Crow was a bit angry. He said to Lu Chun, Dean, what is this? Using our testing space to test, we ended up encountering a top-class genius, and a group of people came to snatch him. A sea of clouds glared at Grey Crow. Don't talk nonsense. Those are Immortal Academy's people. Nameless, don't be impulsive. We can't afford to offend Immortal Academy's people. He was indeed a bit worried that Nameless would be impulsive. Although he was the dean, he was still a newcomer who had just arrived at 6th Heaven. Moreover, from his way of doing things, he wasn't someone easy to deal with. When a sea of clouds looked at Lu Chun, he discovered that the dean wasn't looking at the testing space, but rather at the distant sky. Lu Chun frowned slightly. From the looks of it, more people are coming. This Yi Fan is not only popular, but also a hot potato. Sure enough, a few purple figures in the distance flashed and arrived at the testing area in the blink of an eye. These people were all wearing the same purple clothes and devil masks. Their badges could not be seen clearly, but they were of the same color. Seeing these people, the surrounding rookies were at a loss. Which academy are they from? The emblem doesn't seem to be an academy emblem. However, when the dean of the Academy of 100 Battles saw these people, his expression changed. It's the people from the Purple Heaven Palace. Why are they here too? Dean, who is the Purple Sky Palace? Don't ask too many questions. Don't talk back to them later. Even though these people all wore masks, the auras their bodies released weren't any weaker than Immortal Academy's people. The surrounding newcomers subconsciously backed up, directly opening up a path for them. Immortal Academy's people who were currently chatting with Yi Fan turned around. When they saw these people walk over, the elder's brows immediately furrowed. Purple Heaven Palace? Why are they here? There were a total of 5 people from the Purple Heaven Palace. The one in the lead walked over. Even though his expression couldn't be seen, the smiling face on the devil mask made it seem as if he was smiling. Yi Fan, Yi Fan's really interesting. We've been looking for you for so long, but couldn't find you. You actually dare to return here? Fortunately, the Palace Lord told us to wait here at the innocuous academy. It's been a few months, and we've finally found you. Yi Fan's expression also darkened. You guys are really like ghosts that won't go away. Ha 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 ha. If we want to catch a brat like you, of course we won't be able to catch you if we don't have a bit of patience. Immortal Academy's elder's experience naturally didn't need to be mentioned. From the conversation between the two, he guessed that there was definitely a grudge between the two sides. He said to the Purple Heaven Palace's people, I wonder which Purple Heaven Palace's pavilion lord you are. You don't need to know which pavilion lord I am. You only need to know that this Yi Fan won't join your Heavenly Saint Immortal Academy. He was killed by our Purple Heaven Palace, and no one can save him, even if it's your Heavenly Saint Immortal Academy. If you insist on fighting with us over him, we won't be lenient. The elder's eyes widened in anger. Just as he was about to explode, someone pulled him back and said in a low voice, Elder Su Yin, our academy isn't in this star field. The Purple Heaven Palace's influence is extremely vast. After those people joined in these years, their development has increased by leaps and bounds. At this time, it's not good for us to clash with the Purple Heaven Palace. That's right, Senior Su Yin. We're only in charge of recruiting genius disciples. Even though this Yi Fan's talent is outstanding. If we clash with the Purple Heaven Palace because of him, the gains won't make up for the losses. Another elder also stepped forward and spoke. Su Yan's brows were tightly furrowed. Even though he really wanted to take in Yi Fan, the words of his junior brother and the academy's disciples weren't without reason. It was obvious that the Purple Heaven Palace was determined to get him. They didn't hesitate to offend the Heavenly Saint Immortal Academy to kill Yi Fan. It was clear that the hatred between the two sides was deep, and it wasn't something that could be resolved with just a few words. After some consideration, Su Yin reluctantly took half a step back and said to Yi Fan, "Little friend Yi Fan, it seems like you're not fated to be with our Heavenly Saint Immortal Academy. Due to my status, I can't make a move. I just hope that you can turn danger into safety." Yi Fan wasn't surprised by Su Yan's attitude at all. If the Purple Heaven Palace was easy to deal with, he would have joined some academy long ago and cultivated in peace. He didn't blame the Heavenly Saint Immortal Academy for being ruthless. After all, he wasn't a disciple of the Heavenly Saint. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame himself for being careless. Yi Fan stared at the purple-clothed man who spoke. This guy was obviously not one of those little kittens and puppies he'd met before. He was at least the pavilion master, and he might even be one of the 8 immortal generals. The Purple Heaven Palace had specially sent people to wait for him, so they definitely had full confidence in killing him. Yi Fan, don't think that I don't know. When you walked into the sea of vicious demons a few days ago, you already used the soul-body unification. Now, your soul-body unification is almost gone, so you can't escape this time. The man raised his chin slightly, as if he was looking at prey that was already in his hands. You also saw that even the Heavenly Saint Immortal Academy won't protect you. I think you should just obediently let yourself be captured. Su Yin, Di Xian, and the others had already retreated from the space, and the people of the Purple Heaven Palace surrounded Yi Fan in the middle, closing in on him step by step. "You little bastard, today, even if the Heavenly Emperor comes, he won't be able to protect you. Today is the day you die. Capture this bastard for me." Before he finished speaking, a faint voice suddenly rang out. "I say, this is my territory. Do you think you can come and go as you please? You even want to kill people here? Aren't you looking down on the Demonic Academy too much?" Even the people of the Heavenly Saint Immortal Academy could only suffer in silence. At this time, there was still someone who dared to speak up. Everyone present looked in the direction of the voice in shock. At this time, in the resting area of the Demonic Academy's staff, a one-armed man was sitting leisurely on a chair. Beside him, his assistant, a sea of clouds, was also looking at Nameless with a shocked expression. Just now, he wanted to remind Nameless not to conflict with the people of the Heavenly Saint Immortal Academy, but the people of the Heavenly Saint Immortal Academy interrupted. Now that the people of the Heavenly Saint Immortal Academy had withdrawn from the competition, the Dean directly attacked the people of the Purple Heaven Palace. He was stunned and didn't have time to stop the Dean. Not only those unrelated people, but even the disciples of the Demonic Academy were stunned at this time. Although they didn't know about the Purple Heaven Palace, after comparing their strength, everyone knew that the people of the Purple Heaven Palace were not to be trifled with. But just like that, the Dean didn't even think and directly spoke. Xiao Zhan nudged Chu Tian with a shoulder. "Senior brother, I have a premonition." "Ah, what premonition?" "In the future, this Demonic Academy will really speed up. We may not be able to keep up with the Dean's pace." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.